bad guess, but it's bananas.
Buenos días, señores and señoritas. ¿Dónde está gato en mis pantalones? Welcome to episode 51 of Ken's casting or counseling couch. I really don't know anymore. The lines are blurrier than I only want to go there either. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining me today while I totally don't fuck everything up and forget to put my background slide back up, because I don't do that. This is an expert and well done show, professionally done, with no annoying audio in the background, no technical difficulties, and Ken is late because I had to make a quick trip around the neighborhood for something, and I also had to deal with a small issue with something else. But today, I am here to bitch about two things. Two primary things that have been pissing me off more than I can tell you. The first one will be touching briefly on someone we covered recently. Love Notes for TLC. We'll be touching on her briefly, primarily not because of her, because I'm going to give you an update about her. My biggest issue is her goddamn simps, and I hate to use the word simps, but her fucking simps and her fucking supporters in her chat have done nothing but enable her and put her in a situation where she believes it, and she truly believes, and I'm going to show you proof of it here in about 2 minutes, where she believes it is okay to make statements that it's okay to kill her child because she's angry and it helps her feel better, and it's all your fucking fault as to why she can do that, and it's no problem. And I don't say that lightly. I'm legitimately saying word for word what she said, almost. That's how she believes it, because people are in chat telling her that that's okay, that that's acceptable behavior, that yes, she's had a horrible childhood. Oh, she was molested. Okay, she's been a victim of abuse, and that makes it okay. She suffered this horrible life, and that makes everything okay. No. That's not how it works at all. And don't get me wrong, I'll take my criticism for doing my quote unquote diagnoses on YouTube, right? They come with some criticism. I understand that they're not true diagnoses, and yes, I am appealing to there's some slight appeal to authority, having the degree and the education and shit, but I'm gonna suggest that I have at least some semblance of what the fuck I'm talking about. Every single day, every single time, I constantly see that, because I've been paying close attention to her for months. Every single time I see a stream of hers go up, I try to listen to it, because I don't really like watching it, because recently it's all been about the mastitis and her tits. And I don't care about her tits. She's, frankly, in my personal opinion, not professional, personal opinion, she deserves some of the pain she's brought upon herself. Personal thoughts, not professional. Professionally, I hope she takes the help. But I listen to her streams because, one, she legitimately has an interesting case study. She is an interesting study of all the horrible shit that can go wrong in a mental health system, right? All the fucked up stuff, and how dangerous it is when things like that happen. Say. But her people in her chat have done nothing but enable her and are feeding her hundreds of dollars. And she's blowing it. And it's her money. It's whatever. It's like, you guys donate money. I try to, use it for, I will be the first to say that my local supporters and my super chats more than once have y'all bailed me out of rough times. My GoFundMe supporters, y'all have bailed me out. Last year, y'all bailed me out of a really shit situation. But as far as other people, how they deal with their money, I try to use mine to take care of the important thing. Do I still have my things I splurge on, my little things? Yes, of course. But your GoFundMe money, my super chat money, my donations, all that stuff, y'all have helped put food on the table more than once in tough times. And especially right now, we're going through some tough times because I got a family member who's going to probably be ended up moving in with us because of family member issues. But back to Letitia. The people in her chat who are supporting and standing by this type of behavior are more responsible, and not in the way Letitia thinks responsible. These people are more responsible for causing harm than they would like to. And this is the same drama community and the same people, because I have tried to, and I've been criticized by my own people in my own, quote unquote friend group here. And my inner circle, people like to say, my inner circle of friends have criticized me for covering Letitia and for dealing with this shit. And I accept the criticism and I agree to it for most part. But I've gone into her chat and I've tried to, help Letitia. I've tried to help a couple other people, not, say, hey, not like, hey, I'll be your therapist. It's like, hey, I'll put you in touch with the right people to get you the help you need. I figure that's the right way to do it. But I've seen people pop up from my last year's drama with the Sophie Long shit have popped up in her chat and have talked horrible about me and how I'm this horrible person and how I'm just sitting here shitting on this poor mom. That right there justifies all my beliefs. Just in those few people popping up and shitting on me tells me I feel I'm accurate in what I'm doing. Because if you could sit in there and support a mother who wants to breastfeed her child THC-laced breast milk because she can't stop smoking weed, not because she's, unable to, she's choosing to continue to use it. She said she chose after, because for those who don't know, Letitia has given birth, CPS has intervened, and she does not have her child, and she said she would rather smoke weed than to work on getting her child back. And no, I'm not making this up. That's words from her mouth, right? So, but she is now on this tirade that because she can't breastfeed her child, that the child's going to grow up and have all these mental illnesses, all this horrible shit happen to it. Because if you don't breastfeed, the child's a bastard, the child's this and that. And the people in her chat are like, oh, you poor thing, you should be able to breastfeed your baby. Oh, why can't you just breastfeed your baby? It's horrible. It's fucking horrible. It's just so poor. It's such a horrible thing. The system's so fucked up to do this shit. And I can't take it sometimes. Watching these people, because I don't think she's personally that hot also. Hi to everyone else. Hi Mike. Hi Nico. You don't get my name. Taking care of business. Richard, Cybertaz, Squishy Hunter, and Tim's here. TP's here. Twisted's here. Let's see here. And Advanced Strife's here. Okay. She's not that hot. The baby dodged probably the biggest bullet of its life. This is the same woman who on other videos has said she pushed her child down because she was angry with the dad of her first child. This was her second child. Yeah, everyone who isn't me isn't hot. I agree with that, embalmed. So, but today, I have hit my limit with this cunt. Not so much because of her, because she's going to do what she's going to do. I've hit my limit with these fucking simps. These fucking crazy psycho bitches. And it's not just women, it's men too. And I put more blame on the men than I do on the women. Because the women can sympathize. They've given childbirth. They know what that feeling is like to have those rush of hormones, the endorphins, all those fun neurotransmitters flooding your brain after birth is telling you to keep this annoying ball of shit, literally, because it does nothing but shit 10 times a day. But to keep this and not to just leave it on the side of the road, which is why the brain does that. It's a survival mechanism to further the species. It tells you this beautiful ball of joy of smelly shit is worth keeping around for a couple decades, right? Yeah, Nico's, her first child, because she's been pregnant until August 30th. I think she gave birth was August 30th. So, she has a 9-year-old daughter, and then now she has a 5 or 6 day old son. Something. My math's bad. Anyway, these men and women and other genders of whoever, I'm not here to judge. Although rip Cloudflare for being fucking pussies, for taking down Kiwi Farms for their DDoS protection and all that other shit. Cloudflare is a bunch of fucking pussies. I hope Cloudflare burns and fucking gets shit on for all the horrible things they did. I don't really support a lot of the things that some of the farmers do sometimes, but I support free speech, and fuck Cloudflare for that, for the shit they did to 8chan, Daily Stormer. It's not your place as a business. Anyway, back to 𝗚𝗏𝗄𝐽. You cannot sit in a chat with someone who has severe mental illness and tell them and reinforce their negative beliefs when you have no idea, because I've been paying attention to 𝗚𝗏𝗄𝐽 since the beginning of the year, even though I haven't talked about it publicly. I've been paying attention to it as long as JJ Stoner and Adonis Paul and all of them have been paying attention to it. I just haven't talked about it. And I've watched it, and I've fucking seethed and been pissed off, and I've seen her hundreds of videos, either through them or watching it on my own. I am familiar with her history. I've watched her therapy sessions. I've interacted with a lot of this content. Say, the level of understanding that these people have, and a lot of them are new, so I'll give them some credit. They don't really understand, and interestingly, one of 𝗚𝗏𝗄𝐽's mods quit because she could no longer support the things 𝗚𝗏𝗄𝐽 was saying and doing. Funnily enough, it took that long to come to that decision, but it's better than, sometimes it takes that long to come to that understanding, to know what the hell you're talking about. So yeah. But you'll see a lot of comments in her chat. And her chat is probably the most interesting thing to pay attention to. You have people who know her history talking about it, because now there's no mod to delete things, which is great, except 𝗚𝗏𝗄𝐽 will delete occasionally or block people occasionally. I've been blocked on like 2 on my main and like I think 1 or 2 of my alts. I've quit caring to make alts. At this point, I don't fucking care. I know the baby's safe. But these people are trying to put a woman who has threatened and attempted to kill herself more than once, I think, while she was pregnant. She swallowed a bunch of pills and had to go to the hospital. She's been, because Arkansas doesn't allow involuntarily committing someone while they have pending criminal charges, which is the dumbest thing I can possibly fathom. She's gone to mental health treatment multiple times voluntarily while pregnant, while these charges are pending, because she can't go involuntarily. And she obviously left a day or so afterwards because she doesn't want to do treatment. She refuses to do any work. So she tried to kill herself. Justifies that because the father won't get with her, because the state and the system and people won't pay for her to live because she's so mentally disabled, yet she's this intelligent being. Like, it's this back and forth with her. And we're going to watch a clip of her stream from this morning, legitimately fresh faces. And while we do that, we're going to watch her live chat too. We're going to watch her live chat. And you're going to see just how frustrating this shit is to see. And so I'll probably pause a few times. as we do this. But I promise we do this because there's about 5 minutes. Say, there's about 5 minutes of audio I want you guys to hear, or of shit I want you guys to see. Also, that's not my face. That's actually it's partly my face, right? So what it is, it's an anonymized face. It's using AI models to create a face based off a picture of mine. It's aged up about 5-10 years older than I am, give or take. It probably looks about 5 years, 10 years older than I actually am, because I'm in my early 30s, right? But it uses my face to create that image. So it looks a little like me, but not really. But it's based off my face. And the actual image before wasn't Archer. It was made by someone who I believe got a lot of their inspiration from an Archer image. But it's not technically Barry from Archer. I can say that much because I can't technically use the real Archer image. Anyway, so do you stand by the sociopathic opinion? Or do you think she has psychopathic tendencies? Actually, someone in chat earlier mentioned something about how psychopaths do have productive trends. They'll occasionally have periods of productivity, and I don't really see that with 𝗬𝗬𝐴. 𝗬𝗬𝐴 is self-sabotaging. Psychopaths usually can maintain, like, think about the image of a psychopath, where she, assuming she was psychopathic, she could work a job. She could live within society until she gets her means and her desires fulfilled. Her inability to control her anger and emotions with the antisocial behaviors. And again, for those who are new and those who don't understand, antisocial doesn't mean like, I don't want to talk to anybody. It means antisocial is against the social norms and expectations of society, is what antisocial means in the context of antisocial personality disorder, antisocial behaviors in that way, right? So I think I'm still leaning more sociopathy kind of on her. Again, antisocial personality disorder doesn't have those specifiers in it. It's just that, because you used to have the sociopathy and psychopathy with, I think, 4TR of the DSM before they made 5. I'd have to go back and look because I don't have a digital copy of 4TR. But that's what I think it was off the top of my head. So you kind of have the two disorders commingled in the antisocial personality disorder diagnosis. I think antisocial personality disorder is a best fit. I also think you can have a multiple diagnoses personality disorder, because not only does she have the overlapping symptoms of other personality disorders, she also has the separate symptoms, and I think they're in a clinical enough context to have not only antisocial personality disorder, but histrionic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, although flip the last two, if I were to put them in order of severity. And then she also presents with other types of mental illness. She's truly a severe case of mental illness. This is not someone you should be pushing buttons with. And I say that to everybody, like trolls alike and simps alike, right? We'll be very careful talking and pushing the buttons on this. I have been very cordial and kind. People are not, people with her, just like they tried to handle Adrastea / Mary, and then dealing with her and delusions. Like, some people don't know how to deal with that. When you challenge a delusion outright, you further the delusion. It's not how you do it. Dealing with delusions, dealing with a lot of these disorders are complex things, and they take time, and they take, sometimes you need to get the buy-in, and you've got to work together, even if it seems a little bit out of place. At least the way I do it is to work with people to challenge their invalid beliefs. Going out and saying, 𝗬𝗬𝐴, you're a psycho, and you don't deserve your baby, and that you're completely in the wrong, doesn't help 𝗬𝗬𝐴 understand how she's wrong, right? But I'm going to pull up this stream, and I'm going to leave the chat up. So I'm going to leave the chat up here so you guys can see exactly what I'm fucking talking about. Pay attention to some of this chat. So let's go ahead and play this real quick. I think this is about where I left off. So we'll see where I think this section is.
It wasn't, I would say necessary. I'm pretty sure necessary is the only word that I could describe the entire
Might need to
situation.
audio boost
There
it.
is something wrong with you individuals that you can't offer, first of all, the medication that I need, which is medicinal marijuana. So I'm pretty damn sure that I can place the blame on the system and not myself in this circumstance.
See, right there is she cannot take any accountability. And someone, when they call her out for that, she flips out. I think you'll see it here coming up in a second. She talks about it. I think I went back to the right timestamp.
And that's why I went to the extreme of trying to kill myself, because I'd been lied to over and over again during the duration of this pregnancy from start to finish. That's why I was just going to sign those papers to relinquish him on the 7th. I didn't want to show up. More than likely, I'm not going to show up. But is his father going to show up for him? Probably not. His father is a cad. His father is irresponsible and dishonorable. So I doubt that he's going to do a better job at raising him, rearing him. And after I had sustained so much trauma, so much damage, so much XP was lost, you know, or HP. But
I thought the video game reference was interesting there. I still don't know why that was the choice of words she chose, but I thought it was an interesting reference. I'm honestly still not sure whether Letitia's all there. In certain contexts, I don't, because she gives it. I don't remember what part of the stream, because I was listening to it while I was doing stuff earlier. Is she was talking about how she's not schizophrenic, but she hears commands or voices, or she gets these commands or things or whatever occasionally, and sometimes they or words that she's supposed to use or whatever, and that it inspires her to do certain things or whatever. And I thought that was even more interesting than some of the other shit I've seen her say and do. She's just in need of so much help. No, Lady Justice, we'll be doing Letitia first because this will be brief. And my rant on Canada is going to be a bit, because I'm fucking livid because of what that means and how dangerous of a precedent that's going to set. Because Canada's already setting a precedent as the most loose state, or state being a country, of the ability to do medical euthanasia in that way, and how they're pressuring people into it, and it's infuriating. But yeah, we're watching Letitia for about 5 minutes, and then we're cutting over to that, because I'm pissed at both Letitia simps and shit, and at Canada. Canada's getting a lot of my rage today.
let's go back to where this dumbass thinks that I'm not taking accountability. Of course I fucking did. So, and there's no reason to blame me or blame the mother for having lost everything, and to sit there and say she's
taking accountability, but there's no reason to blame the mother, and it's not her responsibility, basically. There's no... yes, Evil Dead, you're correct. It is the number 6 cause of death. And that should be... that's staggering. That should not be the case. Not a country the size of Canada.
She's crazy. No, look at the entire picture. I couldn't even file for rape. And you're gonna put that amount of stress on me?
So because her rape accusation was considered a false police report, it is now she's not able to be held accountable because the police wouldn't do what she said, is basically her argument at this point.
I mean, do you realize he would have never been in danger had they filed properly? Had they filed
this is her idea of accountability.
Left me alone to find resources. Instead, everyone had thought, oh, she's...
You want her left alone to find resources, but no one was doing enough to find her resources. She doesn't... This is where she says at some point in this how she's too stupid and disabled to do anything, but she constantly talks about how smart she is. To me, she presents a probably maybe below average intelligence. I wouldn't say like retardation levels, obviously, but she probably has maybe 90 to 105 IQ. Best guess. I would not shoot it any higher than that.
She's got mental illnesses. She's got a warrant out for her arrest. Something's wrong here. Maybe she's lying to us. That's why I started chronicling. You're not going to fucking lie to people about my actual character. You're not going to defile my character and slander my name. You are not going to tell people I did these things out of malice. They were out of protection. They were out of love. They were out of consideration.
They were out of protection and they were out of love. That's why she did the things she did. That's why she threatened to kill her baby 214 times or 207 times. I lost track because she's done it more than the official count. She's done it more after the official count. She punched herself in the stomach, which during this stream, she makes a excuse for by saying she was trying to hit herself in the chest, but she hit her stomach because she was pregnant. She swallowed pills to try and commit suicide for her baby. This is the logic of someone. And look at this chat. Look at this chat. Please show up. Please get healthy for yourself and your baby. I'll agree for some of that. He was clearly in danger. You tried to kill him. Well, that goes for a lot of the so-called fathers out there. We still keep going and take care of our kids. That's what this woman's saying, is that fathers don't show up. But let's scroll up to the top of here. This is to the beginning of the video. We're at about the 14-minute mark. So there's enough chat at this point because it was like early in the morning. Let's see here. Please show kindness towards 𝗬𝗽. She is going through enough. No, 𝗬𝗽, you have voices talking in your head. Will they let you know where you placed the baby? I'm always a listening ear. And people are constantly trying to get in touch with 𝗬𝗽. Hey, please talk to me. Please talk to me. I want to be your friend. I want to help. I want to help. But she's ignoring it. And honestly, if she would probably pick up for a couple of these people and listen, she could probably get enough advice to get her kid back. Don't tell her I said that. But if she would listen and just do the bare, like, legit, look, I'm gonna give you a black pill real quick. I'm in Florida for those who haven't figured that out yet. Welcome to the party. We've known that for a while. Congratulations. You now know where I live. Find me in 21 million. Also, highest rated concealed carry in the state. I'm one of those. Fuck with me. Anyway. But what I'm trying to say is, in Florida, as I was a guardian ad litem for 4 years, I worked with kids who were going through the dependency system where you have done something to have your kid taken away or to have CPS or DCF, as we call it in Florida, involved. And now you have to do either A, trial to show that you aren't being accused of what's being said, or B, you just go ahead and agree to the case plan that CPS or /DCF puts in for you. If you do the bare minimums in the case plan, which is usually things depending on whatever your case was, maybe like drug testing, parenting classes. You start with supervised visitation. Sometimes it's therapeutic supervised visitation where someone like myself would participate instead of just someone just sitting in the room to make sure you don't do anything stupid. Where therapeutic supervised visitation, actually, it's like a teaching component to it where we're explaining a lot of stuff or we're walking through things. It depends on the situation when you would have that. But, you have supervised visitation and then it goes to unsupervised, and you do nights, then you might go to nights or weekends, and then you could go to having your kid back over time. You have like 9 months before the state will go from reunification to a reunification / adoption case plan goal. So for 9 months, you can fuck around and then start doing shit at 9 months. And then you can effectively reset the clock, do some stuff, fuck off, and you can keep your kid in there for a while. It all depends because you have a property right to your child. That's on purpose to prevent kids from being easily taken away from. Good morning, Leo, and I'm glad that you like it. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the channel. I hope you enjoy it. I try to provide education and as I like to say, my unique sense and style. It's not the same as Dr. Grande. I'm way different in how I present the information, but I do it in my way because as much as I like Dr. Grande, some of his shit can be boring. But you have a property right to your child. It cannot be taken away easily. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, it also enables bad parents, but it keeps the good parents from losing their kids too easily, right? There's reasons, and those court cases have been heard and gone up to SCOTUS and all that shit. And there's a reason that it takes so much effort to get rid of parental rights, just to terminate parental rights. I don't like it, and I do like it. I'm torn on it, being in the profession I'm in. right? She would do 𝗬𝗬𝐴, and again, this is your black pill. 𝗬𝗬𝐴 would need to do the bare minimum, which would be drug testing, probably a substance abuse program, maybe do AA or Addicts Anonymous or an NA or whatever equivalent would be to, because she's using marijuana, and she's mentioned using some other substances on occasion, like I think shrooms or something. So some sort of addiction, rehabilitation, probably therapy for her mental health, and starting with therapeutic supervised visitation would probably be her case plan. If she just started doing that, she would start to see her son again, and she could probably get custody back. Because here's another tip. When you're plugged in with DCF, you get to jump the line on literally everything. You need food stamps? You don't have to wait. You can get it approved in a week or two. You need housing assistance? You can get that shit approved in a few weeks versus months or years. You need access to anything? When you need therapy, it's free. It's covered. You don't have to pay for shit. If you have CPS or DCF involved, whatever your state is, at least in Florida, and I know other states are like that too, you get to jump the line for help. You get all the help you can get. And it's on purpose, because the goal is to put the parent back with the child, because the parents are supposed to be the best providers. The state, 9 times out of 10, doesn't want to adopt your kid up. That's not their goal. I have been planning to cover other cases where, like California has the right to lie case that California did. I've been wanting to cover for some time. That's on the list. But generally, it's the state's job to try and reunify the parent and the child. That's the parents and the child. That's the way it's supposed to work. And 9 times out of 10, it works. Maybe 8 times out of 10, depending on how good of a case manager you have and your caseworkers. That's the goal. 𝗬𝗬𝐴 would literally need to do the bare minimum, and it's not hard. Parenting classes, I think, is maybe 40 hours. Drug testing, she would have to piss clean. She's obviously going to piss positive for a month or so, having recently smoked. So yeah, she's going to be positive on that. As long as the levels are dropping, she's good. And then clean after that, you're good. You have to be clean for... She basically needs to not smoke weed for a year. If she could not smoke weed for a year, she could get her kid back and start smoking weed again. Like, this is legitimately how easy it is to do. It is not hard to do the work. All she would have to do is do that. And all it would take is for her to, because her understanding of putting the kid in foster care isn't how it is. Kid doesn't go in foster care and stay in foster care for 18 years. Kid goes in foster care, considering it's a newborn. Newborns are a fucking coveted thing. People want to adopt newborns. People want to adopt toddlers from foster care. They do not want to adopt older kids. It is so much harder to adopt older kids. If they can terminate her parental rights in a year or so, in about a year or so, someone will adopt that baby. Guaranteed someone will adopt that baby. It will have a good home. It will go to a good home. It is currently in a good foster home. It's from what the information I'm being told is. So, it would not take much to get her child back. She is purposely choosing not to do it. Okay. Thankfully, as extensive as saying the white pill is that she's not willing to do the bare minimum. That's the only, and I don't like to say the only good thing here is, in my opinion, her mental illness is so severe, she is not safe to have a child in her custody until she goes into intensive therapy and can do true acceptance of accountability. And I don't think she will be there until she does significant long-term inpatient. And she will not do it because her belief is, just like 𝗫𝗫 is the weed is the best medication to treat my issues. The weed is a part of the problem. And for those who say you cannot be addicted to weed, Mary is proof of that. 𝗬𝗬𝐴 is proof of that. You can have an addiction to marijuana. If it interferes with any aspect, social, work, interpersonal relationships, child rearing, child caring, all of that, if it interferes with it, it's going to make, it's an addiction. It's considered an addiction. Say Taking Care of Business says, do you think frequent marijuana use is exacerbating her mental issues? Absolutely. Say, absolutely, it's exacerbating it. It's making it worse. There's no way it's not. Say, because one, she's reinforcing her own negative belief that the weed's the best treatment by using the weed and by saying it's the best treatment. Because she did have a marriage. She was successful while she was on meds. It seemed like she did have a bit of a decent relationship for a couple of years or more with her ex before they split up and the divorce and the custody changes and all that. She is choosing her path at this point to some degree. Part of it is also the mental illness speaking for her. But if we continue, someone here says you literally punched your stomach with him in it. You're just going to act like that never happened. So her hearing is, I think, on the 7th, which is Wednesday. She said she's not going to go to it. However, I've heard different that she has been potentially having interactions with CPS. So she has had phone calls since the initial hospital visit where they talk to her. So she may be saying publicly she doesn't want nothing to do with it. But it sounds like behind the scenes she might be trying to get the kid back. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Someone said, did you really freeze puppies to death? Yes, she did. Let's see. What's it? Don't you want your son to have better than yourself? She wasn't going to give that child a chance. You're evil. Are you going to leave the area where your baby is? Let's see. Baby Jason would have loved the RAV4. She was talking about how the kid would have loved being in her vehicle because the baby would have wanted to be with her because the baby would have been able to breastfeed. Is what was happening before I started the stream. Let's see. Someone said, can't she just talk and come on and talk? Why bully her? Don't we all wish we were perfect? Why should someone else provide you shelter? Letitia, it's your baby. Fight for your baby. Cool. Now we have you admitting the suicide attempt was fake. This validates everything he said about you. So Stop Abusing Children has been very adamant against Letitia, if you haven't figured that out. If you freeze puppies to death, you shouldn't be trusted with a child. Didn't you have help for housing and rejected it? That's sort of true. Well, if you wanted to kill him, then why are you seeking comfort and empathy now for his loss? She has flip-flopped on that. Yeah, the breastfeeding. So here's a thing that people don't know. And for any mothers out there in the chat, I'll be the first to say it didn't surprise me when I learned of this. Obviously, the nipples are a erogenous zone, and having your nipples sucked on during, say adult sex play feels good. Women will sometimes find some arousal from having breastfeeding. It's not uncommon. Most women won't admit to it because they're embarrassed by it. So I don't know if that's part of this or if she just has this super fixation on breastfeeding. She did talk about in a previous stream about how she used to have her dog perform oral sex on her more than once, I think. And she also talked about being sort of attracted to the children in some case. I have to go back and watch that clip, but I don't know if that's anything to do with it. And I think there's someone wanting to buy her breast milk too. Yeah. So yeah, poor dog, right? I know. Let's see. Where else is he? See, Nanya says, mental health is nothing to make fun of. People stop pushing her. If you don't have anything nice to say, then please just go. Don't bash her more. She's in the throes of mental illness. And we don't need her spiraling from postpartum depression. You need a different kind of help than a house. Let's see. Go on Original Owls. It talks about that. Mental ill people don't have the right to hurt babies and animals because they're ill. That's just make an excuse. She's not the only one who's been through horrible things. We rise above it. See, I'll stand by this. Mental illness is an excuse. It's an explanation, right? Someone should help Dr. Phil. That's a bad idea. Please show up. Please get healthy for yourself and your baby. But accountability isn't just chilling on YouTube. Why not start therapy? She talks about, I think, early in this stream that her therapist doesn't want to hear what she has to say anymore. So her therapist has given up on listening to what she has to say.
Iteration
So
to the
I
world
think that's
around
interesting.
me, as well as, myself, I guess. So I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you elaborate? Or are you just that retarded?
Everyone's retarded with Letitia.
Yeah, of course
Notice
I
that.
want him to have better than myself, like I just stated. That's why I did and am doing what I'm doing. My baby would have loved this vehicle, especially if it was a good temperature in here all the time for him while he was with me. He would have loved it because he was with me.
There it is. I guess it was in this clip. But the justification here is just,
And
it's
that's actually
incredible to
true.
watch.
This person says, in my very humble opinion, 𝗬𝗂𝗧 cannot take real accountability until her mental health is properly treated and stabilized.
So, here's the thing. I agree with that statement. The problem is how it gets interpreted. Watch the interpretation of that statement, because that's the statement no different than myself would make. But watch what happens to this. Watch how she interprets that statement.
So I cannot be held accountable for a majority of my actions, but that doesn't negate the fact that they aren't true. So if you are not...
So she admits that the actions are true, but she can't be held accountable. Remember, she can't be held accountable. What?
Filing if you're not actually protecting me as my disabled dumbassness.
There it is.
Then there's something very wrong. That is actually very true. People actually push me into believing some nonsense, and in actuality, you can't. It's a catch-22 in all of these circumstances. So even the fact that I put him in danger, I didn't place him in danger. You did.
It was you guys. You guys are the reason she tried to kill herself, that she hit her stomach, that she's threatened to leave her baby in a box in the woods for whatever to come and fester on it, or to kill her baby and just bury it in the woods somewhere, or leave it in a dumpster. It's a dumpster baby. It's a dumpster baby. It's a retard baby. It's all this stuff. It's you guys. It's not her, because you guys made her believe this stuff. There are people in her chat daily standing behind this, supporting this.
Because you didn't file
Supporting
properly. You
this.
upset me. You aggravated me. You left me with nothing. You left me for dead. You left me for dead.
When she says left for dead, that no one gave her everything she wanted. She wasn't given a house. She wasn't given income. She wasn't given, this is by the state. This is by JW, the potential father. All these people left her for dead. All this is what she is believing. And that's how she's justifying her lack of accountability, that she cannot be held accountable. This is how she justifies it. And people want her to breastfeed her THC-laden milk to an infant that is less than a week old, and to give custody back to her. No, they don't think she should have had custody removed. They say, you're disabled shaming. You're shaming the mentally ill. Bitch, I'm mentally ill myself. I have my own issues with depression and ADHD and all this other shit. I could show you my diagnoses. I've got it under control for the most part. If it's never under control, I get it addressed. And I don't work those days. Right? And it hasn't happened in a long time. But for the most part, I have mental illness too. That doesn't give me an excuse to do that, ever. It's fucking infuriating. Because people are standing by this and saying it's okay because she had trauma. She was raped. She was molested. Cool. So was myself and a lot of other people. Did we turn out okay? Yeah. Hit or miss. Can we safely be around children? A lot of us, yeah. Some of us, no. 𝗬𝗧𝗧, no.
Dead. Some dude smoked fucking crack in front of me. Ice, whatever that is. What is that? Meth. It's meth. You people are crazy. You allowed this to happen. You allowed me to walk free on the streets. And
You didn't put her up in a hotel after she was institutionalized for a day or two. Or was in the hospital. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was institutionalized. You let her walk free and smoke crack or be next to someone smoking crack or meth or whatever. And it's your fault because she cannot be held accountable because of her mental illness, because of her dumbassness, as she says it. This live was probably one of the most insightful 2 hours into her behavior, because every day that's distance from her not having a child is more and more insight into her mental illness and more insight into her justification of behaviors and how sickening of the way she says it and the way she uses to make the logic. And the logic is ridiculous. And I'm not watching all 2 hours of this. We're watching about a few more minutes of it before I go and lay into Canada.
I recorded that shit. The dude picking me up, and he smoked fucking ice in front of me, in front of my fucking heavily 9-month pregnant ass. And you just
Whose
allowed
fault
it.
is that, Letitia?
Instead of
Whose
actually
fault is
having
that?
somewhere safe for me to go and stay, I went to these different mother shelters and stuff. What? I can't be held accountable for any of that. What's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? You guys are fucking sick. Not Letitia. You guys are the sick fuckers. How could you allow that? How could you? What the fuck is wrong with you people? And I say you people like you people, not the other you people. And we're not going into that debate today. Anyway, this is her justification. This is sick. This is actually mental illness on display. People, Adonis Paul has called it malingering. I'm still torn on it being malingering. I really, really need to do some more deep diving on it because I'm torn as to whether or not I gotta find it. Where the fuck is it? Somatic. Where the fuck is my malingering shit at? Personality, paraphilic, other mental. I know it's in here somewhere. I've got my DSM popped up on another window. Motor disorders. Where the fuck is it? Mania, no, bipolar, disruptive, anxiety, trauma, associative disorders, no, somatic, fictitious disorder. There we go. Give me 1 second. Oh, motherfucker. My stupid Adobe crashed. Anyway, we'll continue this while I look it up.
And then to think that I'm a bad mother because of my mental stability? No.
Yes.
I was on top of it constantly. If I was on it like a fucking hawk. I was on it like flies on shit. I was constantly on my child. So even right now, like, I'm completely fucking pissed that nobody saw it from my perspective immediately. Instead, they needed to do.
Because if anyone doesn't see it from your perspective, you automatically assume they're deranged. You tell, and I believe you say it in the next 2 minutes, you say their mental illness is worse than your mental illness, as if they don't see it from your perspective. You claim the government is constantly spying and watching on you. You struggle to understand how storage capacity works on your fucking iPhone because your 64 gigabyte iPhone constantly doesn't have enough space for YouTube, that you constantly delete and undelete because you don't know how to clear cache on your goddamn cell phone. So that's the government purposely keeping you from putting your message out because they don't want you to get your message out. Please tell me again who's got the problem. Anyway, continue,
their
Letitia.
investigation. And I'm like, fine, I'm done. I'm not going to argue. Take your shit and go. Take that and go. It's since you claim it as yours. Exactly. Why didn't they help me get a place? They knew even a week prior to me being there. You know why? Because of the authorities, because what they had done from the very beginning when I filed for rape, because there was an investigation going on with me prior to that, because they wanted to see how truly stable.
Okay, I gotta say, Philly Girl 72, come on, you really aren't being serious, right? Like, I love that. That's the, like, someone's like, seriously, you're fucking not, you're joking, right? I find that hilarious. The same crap, different day. Help is always available. You gotta be willing and ready to accept it. See, that's a true statement. If she called me today or sent me an email and said, Mr. Ken, I'm fucking up. Can you point me in the right direction for help? I'd drop everything I'm doing if I could and figure out how to get her help immediately. Because she deserves it. She deserves access to the help. She needs the help, right? She should at least get access to it. Now, whether the help is effective is on her. But the access to it, she should have access to it. She has Medicaid. She should be able to get access to it. It's frustrating watching this, being a therapist, because you see all the potential for change, but you see it with someone who cannot or will not make the change. And that hurts to watch sometimes. I've watched it happen in practice with clients of mine, and it hurt because you cannot force the change. You can only be an agent of change, a tool for change. You cannot force the change. I can only lead you to the tools. I can only lead you to the care. It's up to you to pick up the care and do something with it, right?
Stable I was. And if I was truly stable, then how is it that I was still getting a disability? Mm,
But if you're not stable and you're getting disability because you're not stable, then are you stable enough to have a child? Now, I know people on disability routinely have access and care to their children, but the logic, if I were to put it on like a flow chart or a graph, none of it makes sense. And I've thought about doing that, but it would take me hours to do, to put some of her logic into a flow chart to see how it flows. For some of this, take like random videos and see how her videos and her logic flows on different videos over different periods of time to see how she justifies things. But it would be a pointless exercise because there's really no way it flows because it's all over the map. It's whatever justifies her behavior in the moment, in that day, for what her issues are. Right now, she's trying to grift for money. She's trying to grift for a place to stay. She's trying to grift to get help to take care of her mastitis that she's getting because she's not letting loose her milk, or if she is letting loose her milk, she's selling it to someone, probably for fetish reasons. I hope to God they're not feeding it to a baby. She wants money. She's trying to grift. Now, let me do my grift real quick. If you like the show you're watching, you can always send a super chat by clicking the button on the chat below. You can also support me by going to supportken.com/tip and support me through Stream Elements, which takes less of a cut than YouTube. And if you really like me and you want to subscribe to my locals, you can do it for $5 a month, get access to the exclusive Discord. You can subscribe for higher than $5 a month, but $5 is the minimum to get access to Discord, where I'm hoping today to do a locals only stream where I can rage more than I'm allowed to say on YouTube, because I am so pissed about this and the suicide thing in Canada. I will get banned if I say the shit I want to say on YouTube today. So let's continue. But let me just put my grift in there real quick, because you're supposed to grift is what I'm told. So, but I'm trying to grift for, I think, decently legitimate reasons, not in an effort to manipulate people to get my child back when I'm currently having such severe mental illness. Hey, Miss Moonbear, how you doing?
I already told everyone years prior. I told
Also, hey, everyone else that's in chat
like,
too. I'm paying attention.
And it's like, on to me for what? You know, like, let's see some silliness go on, because we can both go back and forth. You're not helping me. I'm not helping you. Obviously, I can't. That's why I don't get a job. Fuck you. That's why. I wouldn't be able to hold a job. Right now, my mental state, no, my mental fortitude, I wouldn't be able to deal with fucking customer bullshit. These fucking, what are they? Pawns on the lower level. That's like...
She sees people that do regular work as pawns. She is entitled in her mind. Like, she feels entitled to a lot of things. And it's a bit scary in a way. But the reason I play this, and the reason I'm bitching about Letitia today, is there are more, and this is, like I said, this plays both sides of the field here, both simps and trolls or whatever. And I'll be part to blame to it, because I have tried to jump in chat and help before. Is every time someone's sitting in here saying, you're a good mom, you're a sweet mom, oh, that baby should be breastfeeding off of your tit. You are doing but nothing but furthering the delusional mindset of this woman who is severely mentally ill and is not ready for a child in her custody. If you give that child to her, I guarantee you, and I would bet my fucking career on it, if you give that child to her in its current state, it will be dead in 12 months. Because what happens when it stops crying? What happens when mama's tit's not enough? What happens when she wants to smoke in her fucking van or her SUV? Is she going to roll the windows down, or is she going to hotbox the car with baby inside? We both know, everyone here knows she's going to hotbox the car with baby inside. Because why the fuck not? Why does the baby matter? Baby doesn't matter. It's mom needs her medication. Mom needs to be prescribed her fucking marijuana. And why won't the system give me my marijuana that I need? Because that's my medication. That's the medication I need. No, bitch. You need the medications that you refuse to take, because the reason you don't want to take them is, yes, do they cause different things like fogginess or parts of the brain? And can they have negative side effects? Yes. Do antipsychotics have that effect sometimes? Yes, they do. But would it do so much better for you? Yes. Would it allow you to have your child back? Yes. Would it make you safe to be around your child? Yes. But you choose not to do it. Also, apparently, my grift worked. So AJ Arguello for $20 says, chill out, you are alright. Sending a high bar for super chats and subs. I don't like you that much. Yeah, I know. $5 is quite a bit. Say thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. So, but no one really likes me. People are only here because I don't actually know why people are here. I only assume. So, but this chat is this isn't even the worst sampling of it. Go back like the day or two after she lost a kid and it went into CPS custody. The chats were outrageous. The chats were nothing but supportive of her and saying nothing more than, oh, you're such a good mom. You can be such a good mom. You're such a great mom. You'll be so good to that baby. You'll be so good to that baby. She's not ready to take care of a child. And I will bring anyone onto my stream who dare says otherwise. And I will rip them 4 new assholes because I can prove beyond a shadow of a fucking doubt that there is no way 𝗬𝗬𝐴 in her current state can handle a child. That she is a danger and she is not safe to be around a child, and that she will put that child in a box in the woods in the next 6 to 12 months if you so much as give her that baby back for any unsupervised visitation. That baby is not in constant supervision of a fucking, I would say therapeutic supervision, and until she is on medications and is stable and consistent for months, should she ever be given access to that child for 1 second alone. That is how much I am, and I don't say that lightly. I say that as someone who wanted to people to get their kids back when I was a guardian ad litem, who would do everything I could to empower parents. And I do that in cases now. If I ever work with people who have those cases with, I want them to get their kids back because I believe people can change and can be agents for change. I don't say that she should not have access to her kid lightly. I believe parents should have access to their children. Should they be able to be safe around them? She is not safe. She cannot be safe at this point. She needs to focus on herself and not worry about this baby. And for God's sakes, quit fucking worrying about your goddamn breast milk. No one cares about your breast milk. I don't give a shit about it. You shouldn't give a shit about it. It's the last thing that needs to be on your goddamn mind. Yeah, your tits hurt? Yeah, go get the breast pump that you were probably prescribed at the hospital to pump the fucking milk. So you can stop going, oh, my fucking tits hurt. My titties hurt. Can someone help me? I need money for my tits hurting. Oh, poor me. Go get help now. If you walk into a fucking mental hospital, if you call CPS and say, I really want help, help me change, help me get the help I need. Yeah, all the cabbage. Let's give her all the let's just cabbage. All the cabbage. See, Miss Moonbear here, I'm going to pull up your chat because I think that's an insightful chat, right? Thank you for sharing too. Miss Moonbear says, I'm personally having a hard time with postpartum depression due to underlying bipolar, anxiety, and PTSD. And I have counseling twice a month, of course. She's having a hard time, but she knows what to do to handle it. She just refuses, is what the next part was. Absolutely. And I hope you get through your postpartum, okay? Postpartum can be very difficult. You have ups and downs. It's all those neurotransmitters and the hormones and shit that will fuck with you. You're having a bunch of changes in the body. You're going from being pregnant to not being pregnant, and the body changes, and all of it. PPD is unfortunately common, and sometimes, and I'm not saying that's you, Miss Moonbear, but sometimes that causes bad things to happen. But this is not postpartum. I've watched her behavior. She's no different than she was 9 months ago, before she was pregnant. She's no different than she was during her pregnancy. This is consistent 𝗬𝗬𝐴. This is not postpartum 𝗬𝗬𝐴. This is not, oh, CPS took my baby. I did nothing wrong, 𝗬𝗬𝐴. This is, I want things my way. I want them done on my time, and I refuse to have it any other way. That's the 𝗬𝗬𝐴 you're seeing right now. And there's no excuse for it. There's just no excuse for this behavior. It's disgusting. It's fucked up. And real quick, I'm going to just make sure she hasn't gone live or done anything while we're sitting here talking, because I just want to make sure. Because I know she's been going live a lot. And thank God. That's her most recent stream. I guess she tired herself out with, yeah. I guess she tired herself out with that stream. Yeah, she needs help. Her child back is not the help she needs. It would be the most dangerous thing you could do. It would be incredibly dangerous to put that child back in her custody. It would be doing it just because you feel bad. And while I'm talking about this, I'm going to let this play. I'm going to find you guys the screenshots of the motherfuckers who said I was the bad guy because I'm in her chat saying she needs mental help. That I'm a bad person because of what happened last year with the Sophia Long shit. That I'm a horrible person. And that they're good for supporting her, but I'm the bad guy because I'm saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. You should not be doing this. You should be getting help. Hey, I can get you access to help. If you want me, I can get in contact with you. Do you have a foot? Like, that's all I was doing. And I'm the bad guy for it. But they're supporting her. To me, that those people who fucking came after me, who went real life last year, fuck all of you people for supporting something like this. Because all I've done this whole time is say Letitia needs help and do nothing but facilitate the access to help. That's the furthest I've done. I have done everything I can to not shit on her. Just like when I shat on Mary like a couple months ago, because she was trying to attack my work or to attack my career. I did it in a playful way. I still said, even with all this, you call me, you text me, you send me an email, I'll drop what I'm doing and I'll get you help, Mary. Because that's what it is. So it's frustrating to see. And Anti-Green, are they in Al's chat too? Okay, apparently I'm missing that. So what they're trying to say is so the way licensing works for therapy is I'm at the end stage of licensing. I've had some hiccups because of my career issues last year and struggling getting reemployed and some family emergencies that are going on. You have to get so many hours to get independently licensed. I've been doing therapy for several years now. I haven't yet gotten my independent license where I can practice on my own. So I have to practice under supervision. That's all it is. In Florida, they call it registered intern. In other states, they call it provisional licensure. I'm still practicing as a therapist. And in fact, you don't need to actually be licensed to be a therapist. As long as you're practicing with someone underneath the care of someone. So like I have my master's of social work. I could forever be a counselor for years, and people do this in agencies. Like one of the places I used to work. People would work there for years and never actually pursue licensure. As long as they were under the care of someone who was a qualified supervisor, which is being independently licensed and having 2 years after that and having shown you can be a supervisor of someone who's pursuing licensure, as long as you have that, as long as you're underneath the care of someone, so long as someone's signing off on that in your agency, usually, depending on the agency, usually like Medicaid funding allows that. You don't, for someone who's getting Medicaid funding, you could have counselors who are just master's degrees in like social work or master's degrees in counseling. You don't actually have to pursue licensure. It's really interesting. So you don't actually need to be licensed. I'm just at the like part where I've got to hit the rest of my hours. I've been forward about that, right? So yeah, am I technically not full to licensed? I don't have my independent licensure. Yes, that's fine. But I've been doing therapy for years, both as a graduate intern and pursuing licensure. Okay. Do I know what I'm talking about? I think I've shown I know what I'm talking about by this point. Say, it's fine. I have no problem with that. Unfortunately, my licensing got delayed. Cool. But needless to say, because I'm not here to misrepresent myself. I am who I am. I think my statements and my experience and my streams have shown themselves. I have at least some idea of what I'm talking about. As James Robert Clark III just like said, I'm not just Wikipediaing shit. Because I believe I show a deeper understanding of the mental issues than just Googling and Wikipediaing shit. I would hope by this point I'm more than that, right? I can read I know how to do what I'm doing, right? So yeah, do I have my full licensure yet? No. But do I know what the fuck I'm doing? I think so. I think my diagnosis is accurate. And you've got even someone on here, Tracy, who's Calming the Chaos. Please subscribe to Calming the Chaos. Please boost her numbers up. Get her, I don't know where her subscribers are right now, but help get her numbers up. So check her out. She's a great guest to have on. I love having Tracy on here. She's talked with me about Letitia too. She's licensed and she's been running a practice for decades. She's been doing therapy for years. I think more than 10 years or 15 years. She runs her own practice. She's in agreement with me. She knows what I'm talking about. She stands by a lot of the things we're talking about. So I don't. Oh, the blinking cursor is because I clicked on. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, maybe I do. I don't. I didn't do it on purpose. No, it's I understand. So yeah, check out 𝐂𝐨𝐽𝐽. I always try to plug her when I can. And so these people will shit on me and say, "Oh, you're not this, you're not that." Fuck you. At least I'm trying to do the things the right way. I've tried to give them fair analysis, just like last on episode 50. False Ken said, "I'm not autistic. It would be way funnier if I was a true internet autist. I choose to believe if he was fully licensed, he would have seen the funnier answer." No, if you're in this chat, you're automatically diagnosed as autistic. Just like if you're on 𝗓𝗂𝗽𝗏's Discord, you're automatically autistic. That's just the rules. I don't make the rules. I just write them down and put numbers by them and call them rules. Anyway, let's play a few more minutes, Letitia, before I go and lose my shit on Canada. But these people who want to come after me and say, "You're horrible. You talked about a little girl's vagina." No shit. I read it from an affidavit, asshole. Also, what happened to Rackets is fucked up. If he loses his channel because of these fuckers, it's bullshit. And I don't like the fact that I have to be associated with the people who are going after him because of my own mental health issues. It actually has been bothering me personally. But let's continue. I think, actually, let's see. Also, for those who don't have it, the YouTube comment search add Chrome extension is amazing. So PB&J has been the person who's been talking shit about me. Okay, so they haven't been in this recent chat. But let me see if I can find some of those other chats while we play them.
That's the only thing I think of. It's like you can't get through to these people. They don't have they have no brain. Oh my God. Let's see. I don't know. I do like to say, if you have nothing nice to say, please go away. She's in the throes of mental illness. Exactly, and that's why I started spiraling down from postpartum depression. I think the only thing truly that's upsetting me right now are my engorged breasts. That's what's truly upsetting me. I think it would be...
It's all about her breasts now.
And it's always a learning tool, because I go through so much stress, so much pain, that I just start ignoring that amount, because my tolerance level starts to gradually build, and all of a sudden I just have so much tolerance for things that no one would ever truly be able to tolerate, especially in everything sort of meshed together, when everything is sort of jumbled together, or what's the word?
Let's see, where's that stream at? Someone mentioned it in chat. Where'd it go? Who's really in charge here? Because we might watch that next, because someone talks about how she's attracted to children, or she finds children sexy or something like that. We might pull that up in a minute. But let's continue. I just saw that in the chat on the side, so it reminded me of that.
I'm slowly getting it back. It'll come back to me. It's all coming back to me now.
Please don't ruin a good Celine Dion song.
Man, I sit around and do some stupid shit, though. And by stupid shit, mostly just singing to myself and dancing.
That's not all you do.
I don't see what the problem is with me trying to regain my stability and mental health. And then
there's
when
nothing
I got
wrong with
impregnated, why that happened. I don't understand it. And then the fact that I was trying to get a place, but I didn't know what to do. I was completely lost. My hormones had gotten to me too. I was gone. And now I feel much better. I don't have all that anxiety. It feels like I understand now why I had so much anxiety and why the word home kept popping up over and over again in my head.
This is interesting. Just watching and listening to her justifications for things. They're always insightful.
The fathers go out. Wait. Well, that goes a lot for the so-called fathers out there, and we still keep going and take care of our kids.
I also find that kind of offensive to the parents.
There are guys
or the dads
that are great family men and keep coming back to their families. And want to take care of those families. I'm not talking about you. I'm not discussing you. So
And who are you discussing,
some people
Letitia?
get offended too easily. And I'm like, no, you see, it's not everyone. It's only the people that I'm talking about that are in denial of these things, that they do these things, that they've seen these things, that they know somebody who's done these things, and they just don't own up to it. That's why I'm a voice to just say, fuck it, if you want to put me away. Ooh, check.
See, here's an example of some of these people. I just found your channel. My heart breaks for you, what you're going through. I have noticed your vocabulary is excellent. I hope that you can get the backup you need to move forward. This is why it bothers me, because it's not just Letitia. There's other drama channels. There's other people who do shit like this. I'll take my own responsibility for some of it. The people who join and jump in and add to the delusions, because Letitia shows signs of clear delusions. I don't want to say she's schizophrenic. I don't think we've crossed that road yet or crossed that threshold. But she shows issues. She shows significant mental illness. But yet you have people in here making it so much worse. Making it so, what's the word? Because they justify Letitia's feelings, and by justifying, and that's not to say her feelings aren't valid. Yes, one of the things we do as therapists is they teach you validate feelings, validate feelings. Yes, your feelings are valid, but they're validating the improper thought processes in the process. You can say, yes, it sucks to have your child taken away in the state you're in, the situation you're in. But we also have to recognize what we're doing wrong in that situation to be accountable, to do better in that situation. Because she is missing all of those pieces. All those pieces are gone. She does not get them. She doesn't process them. They just don't click. At least from what I'm seeing, they don't fucking click. So, sorry. It's just a little frustrating to watch this sometimes. Yeah, this is the one from this morning, Tracy. Welcome. Hi, Ken. And chat, I'm having flashbacks. Or is this yeah, this is Trisha. Taking care of business. I think Dr. Carol has been done with her. She said she didn't want to talk to him anymore, sort of, this morning. It was in the first 10 minutes of the video, this video. I didn't watch those first 10 minutes, but somewhere in there she talks about not wanting to engage in therapy, or because the therapists were not believing her or something. So, oh, here we go. I found the chat where people start shitting on me. This is when her where'd it go? I have to switch windows here. So you're not going to see my actual chats because I was deleted, because I'm a bad person. I'm bad speak, or I'm, what is it? What's the stupid window here? Chrome tab. What now? So in this tab here, you can see, where'd it go? So you can't see, so Jane J here says, Ken's counseling couch is a simp for an abusive, homeless father, pale, broke bum, the glare, steer clear of both. I've never simped the glare. Yes, I've appeared on his show a couple times, and he was on mine a couple times. I haven't really been on since. I offered Letitia a chance to interview, to tell her story, because of all the people shitting against her. And like I said, I've told people before, I could be very neutral to people who even I disagree with. So I had been putting in chat, I was offering, hey, Letitia, do you want to come do and tell your story, get an interview, and have a perspective for like that. Ken, I've watched a few of your videos and I was not interested. She's not going to do an interview with you. Okay, fine. Jane J says stay far away from Ken's. Let's see here. Jane J said, Ken, stop lying. Jane J said, Ken hates women, because I said, I don't, yeah. So, and then her mod that quit being her mod because the mod didn't support what she was saying anymore. Again, this was on August 28th. This was right before she gave birth. So again, I was trying to do what I could to be of assistance right up until before she gave birth. So Ken, leave her alone. Ken F off. Let's see. Jessica says Ken, leave her alone. Just I didn't think I thought I was being polite for the most part. I was just trying to offer her a chance to tell a story on a different channel and to ask questions so she could, like I said, do it the right way. But these are these people supporting her. And some of them, and a lot of them, especially those people, I'm confident know her history. And they know the history of what she's been doing. And they're going to continue. And these people want her to breastfeed while she has been smoking marijuana. The CDC, NIH, or NH, whatever, all these places, I've looked into it. They do not recommend you use marijuana and breastfeed because I believe the THC metabolite can pass through breast milk into the child. And she was smoking marijuana the entire duration of her pregnancy. I am deeply concerned for what's going to happen to that child. Surprisingly, he wasn't low birth weight, I think, because he was almost 8 pounds or was a little over 8 pounds. So that ended up working out okay. But dear Christ, I do not know how you could sit there and tell me I'm hating women. And I know where it's coming from. I know why. I know why they're saying it. Because I disagreed with them one time. And on a thing. And so forever I am a horrible person, I guess, is the way it works. So, and if that's the case, I don't fucking care. Say 7 pounds, 12 ounces. So yeah, he was a pretty big boy. He surprisingly should have been lower birth weight. And also, Letitia, when she went back to her car, was upset because several $100s of marijuana was missing because the police had arrested her right before she gave birth. And someone broke into her car. I personally think that the police broke the window to get into her car when they arrested her. But because there's no real video of that. But it's mind-boggling. I'm a misogynist because I don't want someone feeding THC-laced milk to an infant. I'm a misogynist because I want someone to get mental help before they get their child back, which the same people last year were literally saying the exact same thing about the case I covered, the Sophie Long case. Oh, the dad just needs to get mental help, and then he can have his daughter back. Okay, so she did get out willingly. Okay, I must have missed that part of it because I listened to a lot. Because one, there's not much to watch. I'm not trying to scope out the background and figure out where she is, kind of stuff. That's just one. I'm not that invested in the location at this point because the kid's not with her, and two, I don't think even when she does get picked up on her warrants, that anything's going to come of it. If she doesn't take a plea deal, she might get convicted. If the jury convicts her, which I don't think the jury will convict her, and she'll get off for the charges and nothing will happen, or she gets probation. So to me, there's no purpose in her being tracked down, and nothing's going to happen. Just same thing with Christian, same thing with Dark Side, DSP. Nothing's going to happen. Like DSP's bankruptcy, nothing happened. None of his creditors cared. Everyone was freaking out. Oh, it's the other. No one cared. Right? So that is where Letitia sits right now, is basically the summary. She does not have the kid in her custody. She, thank God, does not have the kid in her custody. And it could have been much worse. It is what I'll say, is it could have been much worse. She could have given birth in that car. She could have left it on the side of the road as she said she was going to. Oh, look at that. I enabled monetization and I need to request review immediately. Good job. Because I probably have assisted suicide in the title. That's probably what did it. But whatever, I don't care. Yeah, anyway, thankfully, the child, which she in spite named baby Jason after one of the potential fathers, which I think was pretty spiteful to do, especially if you're calling him a rape baby. But anyway, I think it's time we get into what the main focus of today's show is. And I'm trying to put the timestamps in the description here. Canada suicide. Canada assisted suicide rage. Because I cannot believe the shit that Canada is doing. Sorry, Canada. As Robin Williams once described the United States and Canada, Canada is like a loft apartment over a really great party. You know, they're up there going, keep it down, William. Like, I love that clip of him. It's one of my favorites. Also, rest in peace, Robin Williams. Miss the guy. He could bring a light to many people who were going through a tough time. Man had probably saved lots of lives with his humor, with his comedy. But we now have a country. Who am I? I'm not aggro with. No one timestamps my show, so if it's not me, no one does it. Except it used to be done, and then I was streaming so intermittently that because of work stuff and shit, I think people who were helping with that just kind of fell off. So we're going to read the most disgusting thing I can imagine Canada to do. So for those of you who don't know, in 2016, Canada, wait, is that the wrong? Wait, is that the right one? Okay, that's the right one. So in 2016, Canada made it legal for people to have assisted suicide, basically in death. If you were having a terminal illness or having had severe disabilities that were, I think, extremely painful or unlikely to improve, you could get euthanasia or what they call medical assistance in dying or something. But basically in 2016, it was legalized. As of the most recent statistics, Canada's number 6 cause of death on the entire country of Canada, the number 6 cause of death in Canada is assisted suicide. Is made. That is fucking stunning. It should not. One, it's scary that it's that high. Two, the thing that scares me the most is the prohibition that Canada had on, and so in 2021, legislation regarding medical aid in dying or medical assistance in dying excluded persons suffering from mental illness. So that included conditions such as depression and personality disorders, but not neurocognitive and neurodevelopmental disorders. This exclusion will end on 17 March 2023. In the intervening time, the government must initiate a review by experts who will make recommendations within a year on the protocols, guidance, and safeguards for individuals suffering from mental illness. So I wonder if those guidelines have come out. Because the way I understand it is, and here's, okay, I found it. Final report of the expert panel on MAID and mental illness. Oh, cool. Let's see what we have here. Panel mandates. All right, so one of the issues with this right now is there have been multiple reports of people in Canada being pressured or having had family members pressured to commit suicide or euthanasia through MAID because they were taking up resources or because it would cost too much. It's being pressured on people, which is not supposed to be. As you can see on the video, on the screen right now, a military veteran was offered assisted suicide while seeking help for PTSD against current law, because the current law doesn't allow it. But they were told, let's see, let's scroll down here. This, of course, is in Canada, so Global News recently said sources told the media outlet the VAC, the Veterans Affairs of Canada, service agent spoke about medical assistance in dying, which is also known as MAID, during a conversation with the veteran. Global News said VAC provided a statement claiming the department is aware of the incident, quote, where medical assistance in dying was discussed inappropriately. Say, the VAC also told Global News it is investigating the incident, adding that, quote, appropriate administrative action will be taken. X to doubt, because one, the fucking US VA sucks at certain things. Two, I doubt the Canadian VA is much better. Unfortunately, veterans get treated like shit. And as a veteran myself, I'm concerned the way I see fellow veterans treated. I've fortunately been lucky. I've dealt with my own disability appeals on my own. I was lucky that they were approved. I have my rating. I have most of the healthcare I need, minus a couple things I wish they would do better on that would get me off of all the opiates. Unfortunately, it's still not done yet. But when you have people in the VA who, in less than 6 months, will be allowed to suggest that people can get help for their depression by medical assistance in dying, by euthanizing themselves. In less than 6 months, Canada is going to have that legalized. Canada is committed to addressing PTSD, the government noted online. We passed the Federal Framework on Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Act in June 2018. Well, you haven't done shit, it looks like. Apparently, yeah. So that's one incident. There's a few other countries that perform euthanasia. Again, it has to be voluntary. So here's what I've got pulled up next. So let me pull up the next page. So we're going to read the current law. So everyone's on the same loop here. So, wait. Where'd it go? Shit. Criminal code. Where the fuck is it? Nope, wrong thing. Here we go. All right. Let me tab back because I'm doing this on like one window or one screen again. So pardon me if I tab back and forth. So medical assistance in dying. This is Canada Code. Medical assistance in dying means the administering by a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner. Canada is the only country of the few that do euthanasia that allows a nurse practitioner to administer euthanasia of people, of a substance to a person at their request that causes their death, or the prescribing or providing by a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner of a substance to a person at their request so that they may self-administer the substance and in doing so cause their own death. Medical practitioners defined, nurse practitioners defined, pharmacists defined. Eligibility for medical assistance in dying. This was defined in the 2016 law. There has since been revisions. A person may receive medical assistance in dying only if they meet all of the following criteria. They are eligible, but for any applicable minimum period of residence or waiting period will be eligible for health services funded by a government in Canada to stop people from doing suicide tourism, basically. At least 18 years of age, which they're also dropping the age limit, from what I'm hearing too, from what I've been reading. They have a grievous and irremediable medical condition. They have made a voluntary request for medical assistance in dying that, in particular, was not made as a result of external pressure. This is also changed too. They have given informed consent to receive medical assistance in dying after having been informed of the means that they are available to relieve their suffering, including palliative care, right? Yes, the closer, they're allowing it for under 18, I believe, in coming months, is what I've been hearing, is what I've been reading. I have to verify that. I do know mental illness is coming on the table in less than 6 months. So let's define what grievous and irremediable medical condition means. A person has a grievous and irremediable medical condition only if they meet all of the following criteria. This was in 2016. A, they have a serious and incurable illness, disease, or disability. So serious and incurable illness, disease, or disability. Remember that. They are in an advanced state of irreversible decline in their capability, and that illness, disease, or disability, or that state of decline causes them enduring physical or psychological suffering that is intolerable to them and cannot be relieved under conditions that they consider acceptable. That's very subjective anyway. Exclusion criteria. For the purposes of paragraph 2A, a mental illness is not considered to be an illness, disease, or disability. That is changing. Safeguards. Natural foreseeable death. Subject to section 3.2, before a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner provides medical assistance in dying. The screen's being shared. Okay. In dying to a person whose natural death is reasonably foreseeable, taking into account all their medical circumstances without a prognosis necessarily having been made as to the specific length of time that they have remaining, the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner must, A, be of the opinion that the person meets all the criteria set out in subsection 1, B, ensure that the person's request for medical assistance in dying was I, made in writing and signed and dated by the person and or by another person under subsection 4, and signed and dated after the person was informed by a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner that the person has a grievous and irremediable medical condition. C, be satisfied that the request was signed and dated by the person or by another person under subsection 4 before an independent witness who then also signed and dated the request. So you only need the doctor, the patient, and one witness, or a nurse practitioner, the patient, and one witness to do this. In short, again, this is the 2016 law. Ensure the person has been informed that they may at any time and in any manner withdraw the request. Ensure that another medical practitioner or nurse practitioner has provided a written opinion confirming that the person meets all the criteria set out in subsection 1. This is gone, I think. Be satisfied. Yeah, you don't need a second doctor anymore. You just need one doctor or one nurse practitioner to tell you that. Hey, guess what, Serenius? There is no review board for issues and cases with issues for this. This is eugenics, closer. This is eugenics. We're getting there. Don't worry, we're getting there. So this part's gone. G, if the person has difficulty communicating, taking all necessary measures to provide a reliable means by which the person may understand the information that is provided to them and communicate their decision, and immediately before providing the medical assistance in dying, give the person an opportunity to withdraw the request and ensure that the person gives express consent to receive medical assistance in dying. Repealed 2020. So section I was repealed 2021. C2 S1. So let me find what that was. Safeguards natural death not foreseeable. So this is what prevents them from doing someone whose death is not coming up, like they're not terminally ill, basically. So if your death is foreseeable, you have a terminal illness, cancer, or something like that, and you're going to die soon, and it's obvious you're going to die soon, like stage 4 cancer, yeah, you can have it, as long as you meet the criteria up above. So 3.1 covers if your death is not foreseeable. Before a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner provides medical assistance in dying, I'm going to say made from now on, to a person whose natural death is not reasonably foreseeable, taking into account all of their medical circumstances, the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner must, A, be of the opinion that meet all the criteria set out in section 1, ensure the person's request for medical assistance in dying was in writing, dated, signed and dated after the person was, so same thing as above, be satisfied that the request was before an independent witness, ensure that the request can be withdrawn at any time in any manner. So some of the same stuff as above. Ensure that, again, this is the 2016 law that has since changed. Ensure that another medical practitioner or nurse, so this section's gone. E1, if neither they or the other medical practitioner or nurse practitioner referred in paragraph E has the expertise in the condition causing the person suffering, ensure that they or the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner referred to in paragraph E consult with a MP or NP who has the expertise and share the results of the consultation with the other practitioner. Satisfied that they and the medical practitioner or NP referred to in paragraph E are independent. Ensure that the person has been informed of the means available to relieve their suffering, which include, where appropriate, counseling services, mental health, disability support, community services. Oh, give me 1 second. Say medical support, mental health, disability support services, community services, and palliative care. Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta pause. Okay, sorry, I'm back. I had to take care of something real quick. Okay, so where did I leave off? Let's see. Where appropriate, counseling services, mental health, disability support services, community services, and palliative care have been offered. Consultations with relevant professionals who provide those services or that care. Ensure that they and the medical MP or NP referred to in paragraph B have discussed with the person the reasonable and available means to relieve the person's suffering, and that they and the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner referred to in paragraph E agree with the person that the person has given serious consideration to those means. Ensure that there are at least 90 days, clear days between the day on which the first assessment under this subsection and where the person meets the criteria eligible set out in subsection 1 begins, and the day in which the medical assistance dying is provided. So if you're not immediately going to die, if your death is not foreseeable, there's supposed to be a 90-day wait limit. I don't know if that's changed for that. So, okay, I've got the amendment for 2021. So we'll go into that in a second. And if the person has, okay, so 90 days, which provide to that, it's supposed to be a period of 90 days, are both the opinion that the loss of the person's capacity to provide consent to the received medical assistance in dying is imminent. Any shorter period than the first medical practitioner or nurse practitioner can appropriate circumstances. If the person has difficulty communicating, take all necessary measures to provide reliable means. And K, immediately before providing with the maid, give the person an opportunity to withdraw consent or withdraw the request and express consent to receive. So basically verify at the end. Final consent waiver. Medical MP or NP may administer a substance to a person, cause of death without meeting the requirements set out in paragraph 3H if A, before the person loses the capacity to consent to receive maid in dying, they meet all the criteria set out in subsection 1 and all the other safeguards set out in subsection 3 were met. They entered into an arrangement in writing with the MP or NP that the MP or NP would administer a substance to cause the death on a specified day. They were informed by the MP or NP of the risk of losing capacity to consent to receive made and dying prior to the day specified in the arrangement, and in the written arrangement, they've consented to the administration by the MP or NP of the substance to cause their death on or before the day specified in the arrangement if they lost their capacity to consent to receive medical assistance in dying prior to that day. B, the person has lost the capacity to consent to receive medical assistance in dying. The person does not demonstrate by words, sounds, gestures, refusal to have the substance administered to or resistance to its the administration, and the substance is administered to the person in accordance with the terms of the arrangement. For greater clarity, involuntary words, sounds, or gestures made in response to contact do not constitute a demonstration of refusal or resistance for the purposes of paragraph 3.2c. Advanced consent invalidated once a person demonstrates by words, sounds, or gestures in accordance with subsection 3.2. Refusal to have the substance administered or resistance to its administration made can no longer be provided to them on the basis of the consent cannot be given under 3.2a(iv). Advanced consent for self-administration, unable to sign, independent witness has to be 18. Anyone over 18 can be except if they are known or believed to be a beneficiary under a will or a recipient or have any financial or material benefit that would result in the person's death. Owner or operator of any healthcare facility, so it can't be anyone in a healthcare facility, are directly involved in providing health services to the person, so it can't be like a nurse's aide or a nursing assistant or someone else, or provide direct personal care to the person making a request. Exception, despite paragraphs 5.1c and d, a person who provides health care services or personal care as their primary occupation and who is paid to provide that care to the person requesting medical assistance dying is permitted to act as an independent witness, except for A, the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner will provide medical assistance, or B, the medical practitioner or nurse practitioner who provide an opinion under the paragraph, so the second opinion. So apparently, as long as you're not providing the personal care, so maybe not the care assistant that helps you, but the person that helps the person across the hall but doesn't help you can be the witness. That's apparently allowable, is what I'm understanding. So, 1 second. Okay, sorry. Back now. So let's go continue. All right. So independence looks like just a section on having the ability to be independent. Talking about reasonable knowledge, care, and skill, clarification. All right. So that's the original law from 2016. Let's look at the amendments to the law, right? Because that's where things get fun, right? So let's share screen. An act to amend the criminal code made CSC 2021 C2. All right, table of contents, right? Summary. This enactment amends the criminal code to, among other things, A, repeal the provision that requires a person's natural death be reasonably foreseeable in order for them to be eligible for medical assistance in dying. this was done because the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that that is violating a person's rights to not allow them to have euthanasia if their death is not foreseeable and they're not in like excruciating pain kind of thing, right? So they were forced to repeal that because of the Supreme Court of Canada. Or I think it was an appeals court or Supreme Court of Canada. They were forced to write the legislation. B, specify that persons whose sole underlying medical condition is mental illness is not eligible for medical assistance in dying until 2023, of March 2023, creates two sets of safeguards that must be respected before made and may be provided to a person, the application of which depends on whether the person's natural death is reasonably foreseeable. Okay, I'm assuming that maybe was added to the law I just read. D, permit medical assistance in dying to a person who has been found eligible to receive it, whose natural death is reasonably foreseeable, and who has lost the capacity to consent before MAID is provided on the basis of a prior arrangement they entered into with the MP or NP. So if you arrange to a prior but can no longer consent, they can still go through with your arrangement, is what that's saying. So before they couldn't, now they can. Permit medical assistance in dying to be provided to a person who has lost the capacity to consent as a result of the self-administration of a substance that was provided to them under the provisions regarding MAID in order to cause their own death. So if you tried to do it, let's see. So if you were tried to, if you were given a substance to try and do self-euthanasia, and it didn't work, that they can still provide to you administered euthanasia. Canada's so great, right? So exclusion. So let's see. So here's all the repeals, and so safeguards replaced with to be satisfied before dependent witness. So this was replaced with a person has difficulty communicating. So it looks like let's see, death. So natural death not foreseeable. So it looks like they might have added it to the thing I read before. Final consent waiver, greater certainty, advanced consent invalidated, advanced consent exception, and so failure to comply with safeguards, is guilty of this felony, I guess, which is what is it? D3S4, which is, who the fuck is it? I cannot find it. Anyway, so filing information, blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Offense and punishment, consultation, independent review. So this is where the next document's coming from. The Minister of Justice and Minister of Health must cause an independent review to be carried out by experts respecting recommended protocols, guidance, and safeguards to apply to requests made for medical assistance in dying by persons who have a mental illness. The report must be given on the first anniversary of the day with the act receives royal assent, and must cause a report to be tabled in each House of Parliament within the first 15 days on which the House is sitting. So basically, they were given the next document as a report, which we will move on to. As you can see, as we go further and further into this, how fucked up this is getting. Do you see why I'm frustrated as a therapist, as a counselor? How there's so much concern with the way this is being handled, right? So, where'd it go? So we're going to not go, because the whole thing's pretty damn long, right? So we're going to do the executive summary, and then let's go here. So, and then they're going to recommend, so let's see. So let's try summary of legal context as it pertains to, okay, so this was talking about that they can't do it for mental health, I think. Because this is all 2015 shit. That's the C14 stuff. 2015, 2019 talks about that. 2021, that's where the act was introduced that caused this report. Legislative safeguards, okay. So I'm trying to find the part where we get into mental illness. I had just found this recently. So this is talking about stuff regarding Indigenous people in Canada and how their death needs to be dealt with using MAID. Panel, scope, and summary of issues raised about MAID and mental disorder. So I'll start reading here at the panel. Shit. I'll start reading at the panel scope. Where'd it go? Go back. Wait. Nope. Panel scope. All right. Developments in law, jurisprudence, and clinical practice of MAID have created a confusing landscape concerning MAID and mental disorders. For example, while Bill C7 contained an exclusion clause for mental illness, the government of Canada recognized that persons affected by both mental and physical illness had been and would continue to be entitled to make requests for MAID. Clinically speaking, it is possible that for some of these requesters, their mental disorder may be the primary motivating reason for MAID, but they happen to have another physical condition that makes them eligible. And, as already mentioned, these requesters already fall under existing safeguards, protocols, and guidance. Proposals for new measures for persons with mental disorder or MDSUMC must consider who has access to MAID now, what measures apply to their requests, and what issues or problems need to be resolved through additional measures. Given the panel was tasked with recommending safeguards, guidance, and protocols for those with mental illness, its first task was to establish to whom exactly its advice would apply. The federal government acknowledged that mental illness was an expression it could not readily define. Nonetheless, it indicated mental illness meant conditions primarily within the domain of psychiatry, but did not include neurocognitive or neurodevelopmental disorders or other conditions that may affect cognitive abilities, such as dementia, autism spectrum disorder, or intellectual disabilities, which may be treated by specialties other than psychiatry or specialties outside of medicine. To be more clear, oh shit, god damn it, I did it again. To more clearly identify which conditions fell within the panel's mandate, the panel compared the description of mental illness above with the federal government's stated rationale for its exclusion clause, namely that, bullet point 1, there is disagreement among experts concerning if/when a mental illness can be considered irremediable. 2, capacity assessments are more difficult to conduct, given that symptoms of mental illnesses can affect a person's ability to understand or appreciate the nature and consequences of treatment decisions. The trajectory of mental illness is generally harder to predict than those of physical disease. A desire to die is a symptom of some mental illnesses. I wonder why there's a problem here. There are conditions that are not primarily within the domain of psychiatry, such as chronic pain conditions that are not excluded but raise some or all of the concerns above. Hey, someone with chronic pain, I can relate. Conversely, there are some conditions that fall within the domain of psychiatry for which MAID has already been accessed in Canada. For example, conversion disorder, apparently the Alberta Court of Appeals, and anorexia nervosa, where the above concerns were either not raised or were considered surmountable, at least in those cases in which it was accessed. So they could be treated, I think is what it's saying. The panel concluded that the expression, quote, mental illness is an imprecise shortcut that does not capture all situations in which the concerns enumerated above arise. For example, difficulties predicting an individual's course of illness may exist for many diagnoses, such as Crohn's disease or epilepsy. Decision capacity may be impaired as a result of several conditions, or their treatment, such as systemic lupus, erythematosus, neurocognitive disorder due to Parkinson's disease, and intellectual disability. Risk of complete suicide is elevated amongst those in the first 6 months of a fatal cancer diagnosis compared to the general population. Conversely, capable persons with mental disorders are entitled to make all healthcare decisions, including high-stakes decisions that may lead to their death, such as declining or discontinuing or refusing life-saving medically necessary treatment or surgical interventions. Furthermore, most mental disorders are not associated with suicidality. In other words, the concerns raised by the federal government do not apply only to people with mental illness or to all people with mental illness. At the same time, concerns raised above are serious and ought to be given careful consideration regardless of the person's diagnosis. Okay, I'm not sure if I like where this is going. Yeah, it's never lupus. Except that one time it actually was lupus. While the panel acknowledges that its mandate refers only to mental illness, the panel believes that its recommendations for safeguards, protocols, and guidance should apply to all clinical situations in which the specific concerns identified by the federal government arise: incurability, irreversibility, capability or capacity, suicidality, and or the impact of structural vulnerabilities regardless of the requester's diagnosis. This is consistent with existing legal frameworks in Canada and Quebec. Prior to the mental illness exclusion clause, made no mention of a diagnosis of a particular condition in their eligibility criteria. There was no mention of a particular diagnosis in the eligibility criteria prior to the exclusion clause for these two, before the exclusion clause was added. So that's concerning. It's also consistent with the Truchon decision which emphasized that a person who requests MAID must be assessed in the light of the totality of their clinical circumstances and on a case-by-case basis rather than on the basis of a group membership. Finally, the panel's approach is consistent with existing standards in psychiatric practice in which diagnosis is not a guarantor of decisional capacity, incapacity, suicidality, or prognosis. So why does MAID, MD, SUMC require special attention? Since the adoption of C7, Canadian legislative framework for MAID was based on grievous and irremediable medical condition. Let's see here. Let's see, experiencing. As noted in the panel's terms of reference, Appendix A, the application of some of those terms to mental disorders contested. The issues of suicidality and suicide prevention in the context of MAID for mental illness are also raised in the terms of reference and are discussed below. Even though it was not specifically highlighted in the terms of reference, the significant influence of social detriments or determinants on health, on the precipitation, perpetuation, and exacerbation of mental disorders is a concern to many. As such, the issues below were explored. Incurability and irreversibility. The terms used in the statutory definition of grievous and irremediable medical condition, particularly incurability and reversibility, denote certainty about the future. The desire for certainty is understandable given the finality of MAID. That makes sense. Yeah, it isn't eugenics, we promise. See, we added in group membership clause and everyone will definitely follow it. While the psychiatric literature indicates significant chronicity for some patients, as well as certain proportion of patients with severe mental illness who do not respond to empirically supported treatments, the evolution of many mental disorders, like some other chronic conditions, is difficult to predict for a given individual. Facts. This may be due to treatment, the natural history of the condition, or to a change in life circumstances. This is particularly true when one is looking ahead many years or decades. One possible conclusion... God damn it. All right. Let's see here. I think we were here. Is this where we were roughly? There's a lot. I want to see if we can jump ahead to the important stuff. Right, so where's recommendation 1? Recommendation 1, development of MAID practice standards. The federal and provincial okay, so they should provide practice standards in situations that raise questions about, okay, that makes sense. Okay, practice standard 2. Recommendation 2, establishing incurability. MAID assessors should establish incurability with reference to treatment. Again, these are the recommendations this panel made to the government to put in front for legislative consideration. So this is what the government parliament is considering when it comes to creating legislation, because they're going to have to create a law because the prohibition expires in March. So if they don't create a law, it opens it up freely. So they're going to create a law, probably based off these recommendations. So pay close attention. MAID assessors should establish incurability with reference to treatment attempts made up to that point, outcomes of those treatments, and severity and duration of illness, disease, or disability. It is not possible to provide fixed rules for how many treatment attempts, how many kinds of treatments, and over what period of time, as this will vary accordingly to the nature and severity of medical conditions the person has and their overall health status. This must be assessed on a case-by-case basis. The panel is of the view that the requester and assessors must come to a shared understanding that the person has a serious and incurable illness, disease, or disability. As with many chronic conditions, the incurability of a mental disorder cannot be established in the absence of multiple attempts at intervention with therapeutic aims. Okay. they're saying is the incurability of a mental disorder cannot be established in the absence of multiple attempts of interventions with therapeutic aims. So if you haven't tried to attempt, it sounds like if you haven't attempted multiple times to treat it with interventions, you cannot establish incurability. So you have to try multiple times to treat it before you can be considered incurable. Recommendation 3, establishing reversibility. Made assessors should establish a reversibility with reference to interventions tried that are designed to improve function, including recognized rehabilitative and supportive measures that have been tried up to that point, outcomes of those interventions, and the duration of decline. It is not possible to provide fixed rules for how many attempts at interventions, how many types of interventions, and over how much time, as this will vary accordingly to a requester's baseline function as well as life goals. Therefore, this must be assessed on a case-by-case basis. This is going to be consistent throughout this, I guarantee you. The panel is of the view that the requester and assessors must come to a shared understanding that the person is in an advanced state of irreversible decline in incapability. Okay. In the context of mental disorders, capability refers to a person's functioning, social, occupational, and other important areas. Functioning should be understood from a recovery perspective. A recovery perspective focuses on quality of life from the person's point of view. Quote, an analysis of numerous accounts by consumers of mental health services suggests that the key internal conditions in this process are hope, healing, empowerment, and connection. Unquote. The external conditions that define recovery are human rights, quote, positive culture of healing, unquote, and recovery-oriented services. Jacobson and Greenlee, 2001. Advanced decline means the worsening in function is severe. Incurability and reversibility do not require that a person has attempted up to that point. Okay, this is okay. I'm starting to get pissed off. Incurability and irreversibility do not require that a person has attempted up to that point every potential option for intervention, irrespective of the potential harms, or that the person must attempt interventions that exist but that are inaccessible. The requester and assessors must balance potential benefits and burdens going forward of any remaining interventions. So if you can't access it, you don't have to try it. So if I live in the country and I can't get to therapy, I can call it a day? Like, seriously? I could see this being interpreted in so many horrible ways. In certain countries permitted assisted dying for those with mental disorders, practitioners have developed this type of approach. For example, in the Netherlands, the assessors must be convinced that, quote, the patient is suffering unbearably without any prospect of improvement. Okay, that is an interesting, okay, I think that's not bad from the Netherlands, and there is no reasonable alternatives to relieve suffering. I think that's pretty encompassing. To me, that's pretty encompassing, yeah. Similarly, in Belgium, assessors must be convinced that, quote, the patient is in a medically futile condition of constant and unbearable physical or mental suffering that cannot be alleviated. Okay, not bad, Belgium. The Dutch Psychiatric Association has developed detailed practice guidelines to help apply these criteria to assessments of persons with mental disorders. The NVVP, which is the Dutch Psychiatric Association, considers that there is a possibility of, quote, reasonable treatment perspective for a person with a mental disorder if there is a prospect of improvement by adequate treatment within a manageable time period with a reasonable ratio between expected results and burden of treatment for the patient. That doesn't sound horrible. In Belgium, where euthanasia is permitted for persons with mental disorders, the Flemish Psychiatric Association endorses the above approach. Capable persons are entitled to refuse treatment. In the case of Starson v. Swayze, the SCC, which is the Supreme Court of Canada, noted that, quote, the right to refuse unwanted medical treatment is fundamental to a person's dignity and autonomy. This right is equally important in the context of treatment for mental illness. So that was 2003, paragraph 5, or 75. However, a requester's reasonings for refusing certain interventions should be explored. For example, a requester may have had severe treatment side effects, traumatic experiences receiving care, or may have cultural or religious beliefs that preclude certain treatments. Interventions requiring a requester to move to a distant location for a prolonged period of time may be too difficult for a person to endure, versus dying? These reasons may clarify why certain interventions are not acceptable to the person. At the same time, a capable refusal of treatments with a favorable benefit/burden balance will not lead to automatic access to MAID. In such cases, assessors may not be able to form an opinion about the incurability of the condition or the irreversibility of the decline as this opinion replies upon a history of multiple and multimodal treatment attempts. Okay, it sounds like there's a lot of word salad here. Please, if Tracy, you're still in the chat, please tell me that you agree. This kind of balance between what is available and likely to help versus what the person is able to endure will be part of the case-by-case assessment of incurability and reversibility for other conditions, in addition to mental disorders that raise the same concerns. Understanding enduring and intolerable suffering. Recommendation 4. Understanding it. So MAID assessors should come to an understanding with the requester that the illness, disease, or disability or functional decline causes the requester enduring and intolerable physical or psychological suffering. All right, let's see here. This mental disorder. Okay. Suffering is a personal experience, and this part of the definition also indicates that it is subjective. I would agree, considering that this is what it states here. Apparently, the Parliament of Canada did that. Mental disorders are commonly understood as problems of thinking, feeling, and behaving. These problems can affect one's experiences, perceptions, and interpretations of self and others. Agree. In some cases, a mental disorder can lead a person to overestimate the immovability of suffering, to understand their abilities to cope with stresses connected to the suffering, and or misattribute its cause. Agree. One of the core aspects of clinical work in mental health related disciplines is to assist individuals to develop realistic interpretations of and appropriate reactions to their interactions with others, bodily experiences, and their memories of the past. Quoting 𝐓𝐢𝐻𝐽, which is interesting. A person's interpretations of the persistence and permanence of their suffering resulting in a request for MAID should reflect a realistic appraisal of the situation. Yeah, I agree. I'm struggling to follow. It's actually complicated. This review is like vulnerabilities, incapacity, structural vulnerability, involuntariness, and suicidality. Vulnerability of a person requesting MAID must be assessed exclusively on a case-by-case basis. Beyond the various factors of the vulnerability that the physicians are able to object to, I identify the patient's ability to understand and consent to ultimately decisive factor in this. But if you're suicidal, I would think you can't consent. Do you agree with that, Tracy? Given that Track 2 MAID requests require the requester to make very high-stake decisions, capacity assessments must be rigorous as they must be with other medical decisions with life-ending consequences. The level of ability required to meet the capacity threshold of understanding and appreciation is decision-specific because complexity and significance of decisions varies. No shit. To be capable, with respect to decision to have MAID, MD, SUMC, the level of abilities needs to be proportionate to the significance of the decision and complexity of the information that must be weighed. Serial assessments of capacity may be necessary, especially when mental states fluctuate. Assessors should attempt to assess consistency of MAID requests across different mental and emotional states, including during periods of fewest symptoms. Comprehensive capacity assessment. MAID assessors should undertake thorough and, where appropriate, serial assessments of requester decision-making capacity in accordance with clinical standards and legal criteria. These assessments should be consistent with the approach laid out in standardized capacity evaluation tools. A Canada episode no lost? Yeah, because your country's bullshit. This is insane. I'm trying to reported decision making is a model. Means available to relieve suffering. To ensure all requesters have access to the fullest possible range of social support which could potentially contribute to reducing suffering, you recommend that, quote, community services in Track 2 Safeguard 241 to 3.1G should be interpreted as including housing and income supports as means available to relieve suffering and should be offered to MAID requesters where appropriate. I mean, I'll give them benefits for that recommendation. At least they're trying to offer housing and income supports, because people have been taking MAID and have been killed in Canada because they don't have enough money or don't have adequate housing with their physical disability. Now that's going to be opened up to mental issues. And because of these issues, that will cause things like depression. And if it's chronic and they don't believe it's curable, and there's no access to services, which there's issues with that in Canada, this could become a reason for people killing themselves, and has already through euthanasia in Canada. There's multiple news articles on it. This is so out there. Track 2, safeguards that made such must provide, and providers must, quote, ensure that the person has been informed of the means available to relieve their suffering, including, where appropriate, counseling services, all that. Okay. Individuals living with chronic mental or physical illness, including severe, persistent mental illness, are more likely to experience structural vulnerability brought about by unstable and unsafe housing and inadequate financial means. The efficacy of housing and income supports is supported by Canadian data demonstrating improvements in quality of life and functional ability, as well as reduced length of hospital stays and reduced arrest. Other Canadian reports have, consistent with international studies, established the benefits of basic income, finding that it can improve physical and mental health, food security, relationships, sense of self-worth, and reduce emergency room visits. So it's stating that basic income can help with that. While structural vulnerability may contribute to a person's experience of a chronic medical condition, the panel does not believe persons in situations of structural vulnerability should be excluded systematically from access to MAID. Do you see that? The panel does not believe persons in situations of structural vulnerability should be excluded systematically from access to MAID. If you do not have enough money, if you do not have enough income, that is not an exclusion by itself to have MAID. So you can use that as part of your justification according to the panel of recommendations. That is bullshit. Rather, local MAID coordinating services should assure assessors are equipped to present requesters with a complete picture of any additional means available to relieve suffering, and should make all reasonable efforts to ensure requesters have access to these means. Facts. This is what this is. There's no other way to interpret this. This will kill people that do not need to be killed. Recommendation 7. Interpretation of Track 2 Safeguard 241.2.3.1H. The person is given serious consideration to this means. Serious consideration should be interpreted to mean genuine openness to the means available to relieve suffering and how they could make a difference in the person's life. Okay. Serious consideration is only possible if the requester has given adequate information to be provided of informed consent. In addition, serious consideration also includes an openness to genuinely consider the means available to relieve suffering, an ability to, quote, try on different options and imagine how the means suggested might apply to the requester's life, not only the ability to hear the information and repeat back what has been discussed. Okay, at least they're putting that in there. This requires an awareness of how the symptoms of mental disorder may impact a person's ability to consider the options of this manner. The reason serious consideration seems to require something beyond the requester being capable of providing informed consent, that its requirements, capacity, and informed consent are articulated elsewhere in the MAID law. We assume the use of the phrase serious consideration is not mere duplication of what is already articulated elsewhere as general requirement. Holy shit. Assessors should ensure that requesters, so recommendation 8, assessors should ensure that requesters' wish for death is consistent with the person's values and beliefs, unambiguous and rationally considered during a period of stability, not during a period of crisis. Okay. By itself, person made with mental disorder should not be interpreted as suicidal ideation. Okay, this will be interesting. I think we're about to start getting interesting. By itself, a request for MAID by a person with mental disorders should not be interpreted as suicidal ideation, even if suicidality is listed as one of the diagnostic criteria of the person's mental disorder. Are you fucking kidding me? So if I have a mental disorder that suicidality is a diagnostic criteria, I cannot consider a MAID request as suicidal ideation. So if I'm depressed and I say I want to be euthanized, and I have severe depression, and I have a history of severe depression, and I have a history of suicide, me wanting MAID instead of just trying to off myself with another option is not suicidal ideation according to this statement. Holy shit. Also, hi Phil, and hi Closer and everyone else. This means that, oh my god, I can't even I can't even. This is pissing me off. I'm getting fucking irritated right now. So instead of me being suicidal and wanting to take a gun or cut my wrist or take pills, if I say, I want to be euthanized, that's no longer suicidal ideation. The request itself isn't suicide ideation. So, well, I'm assuming the request itself. So, since the majority of made MDS-UMC requests will fall under Track 2 and require a minimum 90-day assessment period, says the majority of them will fall under this. According to them, we'll see. The requirement of proximate harm to self in the mental health legislation of most provinces and territories to permit involuntary hospitalization is not met by the simple fact of making a May request. So you can't involuntarily hospitalize Baker Act or 5150 someone just because they're making a MAID request is what they're recommending. If the requester for a MAID MDS-UMC has a history or current suicidal ideation or attempts, the usual clinical approach to assessing suicidality should apply. This includes considerations of whether the person has current thoughts about suicide or intent and a realistic and proximate plan. Population-derived risk factors such as gender, social isolation, substance abuse should be explored. If these factors point to acute risk, suicide prevention measures can be mobilized as they are in usual clinical practice, including involuntarily, if the situation fulfills the criteria under mental health legislation. This is true both during and after an assessment from MAID. Okay, that sounds reasonable-ish. I would think you would consider. They're saying it's not. They're saying the request for MAID is not a suicidal intent. By itself, is not considered suicidal intent. So, okay. So if someone's willing to wait it out 90 days, I can wait 90 days to die. And they can hold off. Because you can have chronic suicidality, not acute suicide. Like, holy shit. In Church on Justice Baldwin, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, accepted the following evidence. The physicians involved are able to distinguish a suicidal patient from a patient seeking medical assistance and dying. Moreover, there are important distinctions between suicide and MAID with respect to both the characteristics of people involved and the reasons that motivate them. Are there, though? Tracy, tell me if you agree with that. This statement right here. Tell me if you agree with that. I would think they would be consistent. They would be both. You could have the overlap. That you could have enough overlap that a request from MAID could be a distinction as someone requesting suicide. I don't think I'm wrong. Holy shit. Also, bye Leo, take care. I just saw that. Is queuing Celine Dion on a jukebox considers? Yes. Unless it's My Heart Will Go On, then it's not. The physicians referred to in the statement were discussing their assessment of requesters whose natural death were reasonably foreseeable or who were at the end of their life. While it may be more straightforward to rule out suicidality at the end of life, or for persons with no history of suicidality themselves, like 𝗏𝗏 and 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐜𝐭, this may be more difficult in persons with chronic suicidal thinking and behavior who request MAID. Whether there is a distinction between MAID and suicide is a point of debate in the clinical literature, with some arguing these are two distinct phenomena. Okay, who the fuck are you? And I'm going to read up on whatever the fuck you wrote, while others arguing that they're not. Okay, I'm going to be reading these because I really want to know what the fuck those have to say. And some claiming that even if they are distinct in practice, practitioners cannot tell them apart. I would agree with that. How do you tell them apart? So the Dutch or Flemish has reflected on this issue and writes, in some patients, the wish to die is the result of careful weighing process and becomes durable. When suicidality is durable and there is a chronic mental disorder, when the patient can act in proportion to his disorder, in other words, can form a reasoned opinion about it, and when he also asks for help to perform his wish to die, then the difference between suicidality and a termination of life request becomes smaller and may even fade completely. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that. Oh my god, I am losing my fucking mind. For the NVVP, it is possible for persons with chronic suicidal thinking and chronic medical disorders to make a reasoned wish to die. Oh my god. So it's not just Canada that's got a problem. And allowing MAID in such cases, society is making an ethical choice to enable certain people to receive MAID on a case-by-case basis, regardless of whether MAID and suicide are considered to be distinct or not. Recommendations, be of the opinion. Recommendations 2 through 5 and 8 concern the assessment and eligibility criteria. The following list of eligibility criteria for MAID, the criminal code states the following. Before a medical practitioner or nurse practitioner provides a person with MAID, the MP or NP must be of the opinion that the person meets all the legal criteria set out in subsection 1. Provide a professional opinion is to bring one's training to bear upon one's professional views. Providing professional clinical opinion is constrained by scientific, ethical, and regulatory norms. A practitioner cannot use their professional certification to justify any view. The opinion must be within the person's scope of practice. It must respect accepted scientific data and clinical standards, and it must respect existing ethical norms as found, for example, in the Canadian Medical Association Code of Ethics, the CMQ's Code de Deontology and Practice Standards of Regulators. Yeah, my French sucks. Furthermore, to be able to form an opinion about MAID eligibility requires having the training necessary to develop this competence. See Recommendation 15. In addition, professional associations and regulatory authorities have responsibilities to ensure that training, mentorship, and organizational structures are available to support competent practice. It is also possible, despite appropriate training knowledge and additional consultation, assessors will not be able to form an opinion about eligibility for a given case because there is too much uncertainty or complexity, whether it concerns incurability, reversibility, capacity, and/or suicidality. In such cases, the practitioner cannot find the person eligible for MAID. This does not require them to object on conscious grounds, but rather to acknowledge the limits of their abilities and the available information in the face of such request. Situations of involuntariness. Yeah, I don't like French. I'm more of a Spanish person myself. And I've been slowly trying to learn Japanese so I can watch anime the real way. Don't judge me. One of the eligibility criteria for MAID, which is being violated at this very minute, is, quote, a voluntary request for medical assistance in dying that, in particular, was not made as a result of external pressure, unquote. But in some cases, a person's voluntariness may be compromised because of internal pressure, namely through symptoms of their condition. Obvious examples include a requester who has a delusion that they must save the world by having MAID, or whose experiences command hallucinations telling the person they must die. More subtle examples arise in situations where a person's emotional instability leads them to change their mind frequently about maintaining and withdrawing their request, such that the assessor does not know what their wishes are. Another example includes the way in which severe childhood trauma can lead a person to feel hopeless about future change. Assessors need to be aware of these types of internal pressure to request or follow through with MAID. They have training and experience necessary to detect it. Yes. Oh my God, yes. Involuntariness can also stem from requesters' living situation. Here we refer to persons who are living in involuntary circumstances because of their mental disorders, people subject to long-term involuntary hospitalization, or community treatment orders. There are also situations of involuntariness not directly arising from a mental disorder, for example, incarceration or parole board surveillance. Finally, there are those who experience involuntary placement in nursing homes, often because of neurocognitive disorders. I agree with that. Alright. Being in an involuntary situation may be associated with suffering related to a mental disorder and or lead to a person's functional decline. I could see that. In such cases, an involuntary situation, rather than the medical condition, may be a primary motivating factor in requesting MAID. So recommendation 9, situations of involuntariness. Persons in situations of involuntariness for periods shorter than 6 months should be assessed following this period to minimize the potential contribution of the involuntariness on the request for MAID. For those who are repeatedly or continuously involved in situations of involuntariness, 6 months or longer, or repeated periods of less than 6 months, the institution responsible for the person should ensure the assessments for MAID are performed by assessors who do not work with or are associated with the institution. That right there is to prevent institutions from forcing people to have suicide, assisted suicide / euthanasia, because they need more space. That's the reason that's there. They don't want the bias, but I guarantee you it's going to happen anyway. But assessment process. The majority of MAID MD SUMC cases will fall under Track 2 safeguards and require a minimum 90-day assessment period. Because many assessments will require multiple visits and identifying services that could potentially relieve suffering will take time, requesters and assessors should expect assessment periods will often exceed 90 days. Okay, thankfully. The 𝗓𝐕𝐻𝑇𝐴 𝐦𝐻𝐬 has documented that their assessment process for requesters with mental disorder takes on average 10 months. Jesus Christ. Provinces and territories should support the development of centralized entry point that can be assessed directly by requesters. Continued development of virtual care as occurred during the COVID-19 pandemic should be pursued. Secure online platforms, cross-jurisdiction licensure, agree. Given the time required to ensure high-quality assessments, both professionals involved in the assessment process and requesters should be supported by staff who will coordinate assessments and facilitate appointments, enabling requesters to access care that may alleviate suffering. In addition, an investment of new resources to support the MAID-related work of assessors, care coordinators, and other healthcare professionals will be required in provinces and territories where this does not already exist. Let's see here. Okay, I think this is not too bad. Healthcare professionals who have existing therapeutic relations with requesters should continue to provide them with care during and after the assessment period. The existence of a MAID team or centralized process should not result in the requester being discharged from existing services. But how likely is that to happen? How likely is that to happen, though? Do you think with the overload of mental health and just general mental services in Canada, that will continue? That they will continue therapy while also being assessed for MAID? Or will therapy be dropped and that will be used as an excuse to say this person now meets the eligibility criteria? I am not comfortable with the way this is going. This twin track approach has been endorsed in Belgium by the VVP. They write any contact in the context of a request for euthanasia must always be focused on death, exploration, and evaluation of the request for euthanasia, and on life, recovery-oriented, notwithstanding suffering and limitations, and building a meaningful life. In practical terms, this means that even while a MAID request is being explored, the treating team will continue to work with the requester in pursuit of therapeutic goal. But how invested is the person requesting MAID going to be in their therapeutic goals for mental illness? They're wanting to die. Do you think they're going to be actively engaged in their therapy? Because they know if they wait long enough that this will come, that they will get permission and they will have the state kill them. There are people who are not critically, immediately mentally ill that would be willing to wait. That will, oh my God, I don't like how this is going. Expertise, independent assessor with expertise. Yeah, there's going to be, I agree, ARC5. There's already coercion. People are already being told, you're costing the hospital, you're costing the system too much, you're costing the hospital too much, you should just die. Legitimately look it up. I cannot pull up all the articles today. I do not have the time. I've got to try and wrap it up in under 3 hours today. Because we're already at 2.5. So input from training team and collateral information. If the requested primary healthcare provider is not one of the assessors, assessors should obtain input from that person. When the requester's clinical care is shared by members of a multidisciplinary healthcare team, assessors should solicit their input as well. Recommendation 12B. With the requester's consent, assessors and providers shall obtain collateral information relevant to eligibility and capacity assessment. This should include reviewing medical records, prior MAID assessments, and discussions with family members or significant others. Care must be taken to determine that obtaining collateral information will not be harmful to the requester. So is it harmful to the requester if the information goes against their request? Maybe I'm being a bit negative here and maybe not as open and neutral as I need to be, but I don't like how this is working. I don't like where this is going. I don't like the fact that we're allowing mental disorders where people cannot make logical decisions and cannot make well-rational decisions. You cannot sign a legal document when you're experiencing suicidal instant, like that's legitimately a thing. Challenging interpersonal dynamics. In situations of challenging interpersonal dynamics with a requester, there is a risk MAID assessors and providers will struggle with the interaction and accept or reject too readily the individual's request for MAID. No shit. Practitioners should be aware of their own reactions to the requesters and seek assistance from colleagues in order to ensure that these reactions do not compromise their judgment about eligibility. In some situations, the best way of ensuring that the request is handled fairly is to withdraw as an assessor. Withdrawing from participating in a request because of challenging dynamics requires that not all clinicians and patients work well together, and other professionals may work better with a given requester. This is something that occurs in many areas of practice. That's actually normal. It's not an issue. No, being waged, way more fun. Yeah, this exactly. It could take years of intensive therapy daily to start getting better. Yeah, thank you. I'm fucking hoping I'm not too far out there. Okay, so the situation, along with other several aspects of practice, may not be covered in law or practice standards. Local health authorities will have the established policies that are appropriate to their context. For example, in some locations, when the first and second assessors disagree, the patient is seen by a third assessor. It's not a legal requirement, but is determined based on current practices and available resources. So if so this is going to be based on location from local health authorities? So some areas may say if the one person says no and the other person says yes, then that second person saying yes is okay, and they don't need a third assessor? Because this is not being put in the law. This is not being established as a requirement. This is not a law or practice standard. This is not a law or practice standard. This is a local health authority thing. That's a local health authority policy that each local health authority has to establish. This is not a legal requirement, but is determined based on current practices and available resources. There's not that much available resources in Canada. Do you think they're going to want a third assessor? Or do you think they're going to let the second assessor be okay and sign off on it? I'm just saying. I understand the functioning of Canada's healthcare system. Alternatively, local authorities may wish to extend existing policies to include MAID. For example, a requester making a repeated MAID request despite no change in circumstances could be covered by existing policies about frequent users. Finally, it is important to note that no practitioner is obliged to participate in MAID practice. If there are cases whose characteristics do not correspond with the assessor's own values, objecting on conscious grounds may be appropriate. For example, in situations where a person requests MAID and one motivation is to hurt a surviving family member, an assessor may not wish to participate. Okay, at least they allow you to object on consciousness. Holy shit. The remaining 6 recommendations concern implementation. Several recommendations concern improvements for the functioning of Track 2 and for MAID overall. The recommendations concern consultation with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, training of assessors and providers, prospective oversight, quality assurance, modification to the federal money system, and research. Consultation with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. I don't know how the fuck that pronunciation of the E with the thing over it is. Then don't at me, bro. To date, engagement with Indigenous peoples in Canada concerning MAID is yet to occur. Oh, it's only been 6 years and we still haven't fucking talked to anybody. Okay. Or 5 years, I think, at this point. Because of the regional, cultural, and historical differences of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people across Canada, the process of engagement will be mostly impactful if done by regulatory bodies in each province as they develop regional practice standards, or regional standards of practice for physicians and nurse practitioners. Okay, that's fine. Move on. Training of assessors and providers in specialized topic. To support consistent application of law and to ensure high quality and culturally sensitive care, assessors and providers should participate in training opportunities that address the topic's particular salience to MAID, MD, SUMC. These include, but not limited to, capacity assessment, trauma-informed care, and cultural safety. Okay, I can get on board with that. You should be well trained to do this assessment. Trauma-informed care is important. Trauma can increase the likelihood of self-perceptions of worthlessness, helplessness, and potentially affect capacity. And it can impact the way a person interacts with healthcare providers, which can negatively impact their ability to receive good care. Trauma and its impacts go unrecognized, which is why training for MAID assessors on this topic is essential. At least they're aiming for that. I'm curious with how long that training is going to be. Will it be an 8-hour online training? Something like that everyone clicks through and no one actually fucking reads? Just saying. Prospective oversight. Given its concurrent jurisdiction in relation to MAID, federal government should play an active role in supporting the development of a model of prospective oversight for all or some Track 2 cases that could be adapted by provinces or territories. Canadian psychiatrists have proposed prospective oversight as an essential mechanism for assuring appropriate MAID practice for persons with mental disorders, because there's really no oversight right now. There are a variety of ways such a system can be organized, but the key feature of prospective oversight is a process that ensures assessors complete the necessary assessment steps in compliance with legal requirements in advance of made provision. This mechanism could apply to all Track 2 requests or those with requests which raise questions about incurability and reversibility, capacity, suicidality, and the impact of structural vulnerability. If the latter, a procedure for identifying these cases will be developed. Will have to be developed. Okay. So yes, you need an oversight body, is basically what this is hitting on. Here, case-based quality assurance and education, data collection. Oh yeah, a couple provinces in Canada won't allow the use of MAID as a cause of death because they don't want the statistics being tracked. Would be my best guess. You cannot put that on the death certificate. What about Track 1 cases? But they didn't really talk much. Elderly persons with mental disorders, rather than prolonged and detailed Track 2. Okay, so yeah, that's an issue. So if they're going to fall under Track 1, which is their death is foreseeable, being old, but also with mental disorders, how do you deal with the safeguards for that? Let's see. Under current MAID law, a person with physical conditions accepted as serious and incurable illness, a disease with whose advanced state of irreversible decline enduring trouble suffering. Okay. Interpretation of the original MAID law seemed to allow age to be a factor relevant to the decision for the designation of RFND. Thus, two people seeking MAID for mental disorder, one who is frail or has multiple medical comorbidities and is elderly, and one who is not, might be approached differently. The one who is not elderly could only proceed under Track 2 and the protections of the Ford, and the one who is elderly could proceed under Track 1, which doesn't have the 90-day time limit. Whether Track 1 or Track 2 is a better approach in the case of the elderly person will depend upon the case. However, some assessors and providers may think they are required to adhere to Track 1 in such cases. What flexibility, if any, assessors have to select tracks should be clarified for practitioners or requesters. Oh my God, yes, it needs to be. Because you know they will put old people in Track 1, so they don't need 90 days of oversight and multiple requests for treatment. Because yes, you're old, but yes, you have depression. Yes, I want to die. So yes, I'm old. I'm going to die soon. Let me die. I can do Track 1. Sign it, date it, let's go. Today, let's be done with it. Do you not see Track 1 being abused for mental disorders for older people? And then here's one of my main concerns. This is that whole eugenics thing people keep hitting on in the chat. As noted, the federal government stated that people with neurodevelopmental and intellectual disabilities are not covered by the mental illness exclusion clause. This means that they may request and be considered eligible for MAID at present. That means people who have intellectual disabilities. To use an old term, retardation, mental retardation, intellectual disability, so lower IQ. I think IQ below 70 is considered ID. However, some of the concerns raised about mental disorders, such as questions of capacity, voluntariness, structural vulnerability, could also apply to persons with intellectual disabilities. The panel identified 4 possible scenarios of requests involving the groups of the persons. A person with an intellectual disability and comorbid physical condition whose natural death is reasonably foreseeable, advanced terminal cancer. Person with ID and a comorbid physical condition whose natural death is not reasonably foreseeable, e.g. a person with epilepsy or person whose ID is part of a clinical syndrome with both cognitive and physical aspects, a person with an ID and mental disorder, and a person with an intellectual disability alone. First 2 categories could be potentially eligible for MAID as it currently sits on the physical condition. Such a request could proceed under Track 1 and Track 2 respectively. Persons in 3rd and 4th categories may as well be potentially eligible if their intellectual disabilities are taken to be, quote, serious and incurable illness, disease, or disability, resulting in an advanced state of irreversible decline in capability, and enduring intolerable suffering, and if other requirements of age, capacity, and voluntariness are met. In the Netherlands, a small number of requests for euthanasia have been accepted for people with intellectual disability or autism spectrum disorder, several of whom did not have comorbidities. So the ID or autism spectrum disorder was the only reason that Netherlands allowed euthanasia in some cases. The panel was constituted to look for safeguards appropriate to MAID for mental illness and not from neurodevelopmental or other intellectual disabilities, even if many of the same issues arrive in such cases. Given the lack of the subject matter expertise in this topic among the panel membership, there is a need for particular issues related to MAID for persons with intellectual disabilities to be considered further and addressed in collaboration with people with lived experiences and their supporters. Which is interesting considering autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability are both in the DSM. They're in the DSM. How are they not, which is of mental disorders, right? How is it not, I don't understand that. Requesters who are incarcerated, the prison population offers additional challenges when it comes to MAID MDS-UMC, which I believe this is referring to the mental health requests, or the exclusion. First, the prevalence of mental disorders is higher relative to the general population. No shit. Access to adequate care may be limited and or dangerous and stressful conditions may be present. It's prison. The Office of Correctional Investigator and Driftmeyer and Shaw also noted correction or concerns about voluntariness and confidentiality related to MAID requests and assessments by inmates, although this is not specific to MAID MDS-UMC. In 2018 to 19, there were 14,071 individuals in federal custody and 23,783 individuals in provincial territorial custody. Adults serving custodial sentences of 2 years or more are housed in federal prisons administered by the CSC. Almost half of this population is serving a sentence of less than 5 years, while almost 1/4 is serving an indeterminate sentence. Adults serving custodial sentences of less than 2 years and those held awaiting trial or sentencing, as well as those serving community sentences, fall under the purview of provincial and territorial correctional service programs. The average length of stay in these institutions is less than 3 months, as some prisoners in federal prisons are in situations of long-term involuntariness. Federal prisons are the most relevant to this report. As of March 31, 2022, there have been 5 assisted deaths of prisoners since Bill C-14 came into force June 2016. There are approximately 50 deaths from all causes per year, and CSC's cites resulting in about 250 deaths since 2016. MAID deaths represent approximately 2% of total federal prison deaths. The Canadian rate of MAID deaths in 2020 was 2.5% of all deaths. The panel solicited input from medical leaders. Let's see. Let's see. The CSC is not aware of any instance where a person was requested MAID as a means to avoid completing their sentence. Well, at least that's potentially good, assuming they did it right. With respect to MAID MDS-UMC, for their patient population, these calls express many of the same concerns that have been identified in this report, namely difficulties establishing incurability and reversibility, uncertainty about capacity, and suicidality. They also questioned the voluntariness of some requests given the fact of imprisonment. In light of the clinical specificity of the prison population context, they believe that MAID assessors in prison should have some knowledge of the setting and mental disorders most prevalent within prisons. The fact that they're allowing it in prisons at all is concerning. To me. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm trying to not dissociate myself, Tracy. There's a lot to read. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so this is the appendix, terms of reference, mandate, governance, membership nomination, membership considerations, confidentiality, indemnifications of members, travel expenses, expert panel members, secretariat, exclusive. Okay. So, trying to see if they've passed any laws to address the upcoming expiration. News. Okay, I'm not paying to read your fucking newspaper. How Canada ignored, first reading, how Canada ignored warnings that euthanasia would immediately go too far. The courts repeatedly dismissed the notion that sick Canadians might be offered death instead of treatment. It's like it's happening. It's not like I was lying about that shit. Yeah. So this is just a bit, like I said, that let me pull this back. The rest of that's kind of just boring shit. This is a big concern in so many ways. I do not see how that doesn't end up falling apart and messing up so much and fucking with people so badly and ruining so many lives. So I'm gonna pull up one more thing real quick because I think it's an interesting quote that's in this news article. Right, so check this out. And then we're gonna probably call it. And I don't think I've got something that came up. I'm gonna have to try and schedule something for locals with you guys later or tomorrow because we've got a family issue going on. It's been causing me a lot of stuff that's been going on. I've been working a lot to get things ready to help with that situation. So I've been a bit stressed, but I haven't forgotten about you guys. I promise to God I haven't forgotten about you guys. One of the main, so this is a bioethicist talking about. Also, Canadian Medical Association found 63% of physicians will refuse to offer assisted death to a patient. MAID's core issue was that it was a 100% successful procedure with no way of telling whether it was a mistake. Because few other medical acts can be accomplished with such impunity, we're likely to become more and more comfortable with it and more permissive as time goes by, he wrote. I completely agree with that. There was another court ruling that once again pushed the envelope at Canada's assisted death regimen. 2019, Truncheon and Gladwell v. Canada, which was referenced in the thing, the Quebec Superior Court ruled that extending assisted suicide only to Canadians with terminal illness was similarly a violation of the security of person. Think about it. Here again, the prospect of euthanasia going too far was almost entirely dismissed. Right? The court praised the first years of assisted death in Canada as being governed by a strict and rigorous process that by itself displays no obvious weakness. Bullshit. Yeah, I need to go back and read through the comments here. Thank you, Phil. Real quick, did anyone super chat that I missed? Did I miss a super chat? Please tell me I didn't miss a super chat. Go back up. Yeah, they're just, as I'm scrolling back through these comments, and I'm seeing everyone's input. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, Phil. I don't think you can. I think unless you can prove that it was done and it violated the procedures and safeguards in place, how are you going to be able to do that effectively? I don't think you can. Oh, the Supreme Court of Death, it's called multidisciplinary. Yes, I agree. This is just insane to me. No, so it seems like if there's an assessor, so that section, it sounded like in their recommendations, is it's not in the law or regulation that the federal government set out. For the provinces, it's going to be up to local healthcare, those cities, and I'm guessing cities and provinces, or regions and provinces, to say that if you have, because it sounds like you're going to need at least 1 to 2 assessors for this. I don't know. But if one assessor, it sounds like you might only need 1. But say you have one assessor district say no, and you go to another assessor, and they say yes, it might be based on local law or local policies to say whether or not you need a third person to say that second person was right and not just checking the boxes. That might be a local implementation only and not a requirement at the federal level, which to me is bullshit. It's going to be based on, from what the thing was saying, availability of resources. The resources aren't that available. That's one of the reasons why this is probably being pushed through so fucking much. Yeah, I'm not really happy with how this has been done. Oh, really? Canada recently had a scandal that doctors were sterilizing Indigenous women that they had determined to be mentally unfit without consent. Oh, wow. Canada's just fucking acing this stuff. They're doing a great job. This is insane to me. I still don't understand how this is possible. Wow. This is overkill. Literally overkill. Would you feel safe now bringing your suicidal loved one to seek medical care for recovery when there are no oversight or stringent safeguards surrounding a procedure that kills people? So that thing I read you was the recommendations from the panel. Now, it's up to Parliament to implement said recommendations. Whether they do or not, I have no idea. I don't think they will, and that's what concerns me. Pun intended, overkill, yeah. Oh, I know it happens. I know this shit happens. So, let me go ahead, and this is going to be a short episode today because I've got a lot of work around the house to do, getting ready for family members to be moving in a few months. Just repairs and shit to the house combined with just other stuff going on. All right, just making sure I didn't miss any other super chats or anything. Thank you everybody for watching. So I know we had two different kind of focuses on today's show. I want to try and squeeze something else in later this week. I don't know. I want to try and squeeze in something for fun for local people, even if it's not just straight locals people, but like members, but just followers. Just to get more people over to that platform, because obviously look what happened to Rakita. And I know sometimes my topics are spicy. So yeah, ethics have been thrown to the wind. So also my voice is starting to go a bit. And as someone else was saying, a couple other streamers are going live and people are going to go check out those. So I don't want to step on other people's stream. So, oh, real quick, I got another super chat. Andy Green for 5 says, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you going over this. And thank you, everyone in chat. I always love chat because chat has great insight and differences of opinion. Like Tracy has a good opinion, Phil has a good opinion. Tracy says, Ken, I really admire you for taking in your family members. I had a similar situation happen this week with my mom and sister. Cops got involved in the I'm sorry to hear about that. I hope everyone's okay. DK said it had some locals coins left, so I dropped a few months of support in there. Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. Interestingly enough, I have a bunch of locals coins that I had before I turned off tips. And because on the creator side, we don't have a way to convert coins into cash, we can only either spend them on other people's memberships or I can gift memberships. So I've been meaning to give out membership gifts to people. I had started to do some and I hadn't finished it. I need to do something else to give out membership gifts so I can actually cash in my local coins that have been sitting there. That's good to hear, Tracy. It's good to hear. But yeah, as long as I don't touch the bathtub, as much as I would love to touch on that, I think I'm going to ignore it because I'm already pissed off about what's happened to Kiwi. It's bullshit, in my opinion. But my friend believes that parents don't deserve reproductive rights, that it should be up to a panel to decide who's fit to give birth. I once thought that, and then I changed my mind because there's so much abuse that could happen in that. There's just no way to manage that. So, I hope everyone. So last input for comments and stuff, because I think I'm going to wrap it up here. There's no way I'm all for subs in any way. Recurring income is great support. But I'm an ass. I just sip money when I'm watching, enjoying content. No, hey, you support your creators however you feel is the best way to support them. If you feel that's the best way to support me and what I do, thank you. I will always appreciate that. Whether you give me $5 a month or whether you drop $20, $50, $5 here and there, all of it is helpful. You will not believe how many times over the last year or so, given my job situation last year and the following time that came after it, managing all that shit that went down. It was a lot, to say the least. The food and paying for bills and shit has been very helpful on more than one occasion, and I can never think even a dollar has helped put a can of soup or a loaf of bread to make grilled cheese and tomato soup for days on end on occasion. Trust me, I appreciate it more than I can ever state. And Calming the Chaos for $20 says, for your family, thank you. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Calming the Chaos. Tracy's really good. She's a licensed mental health counselor in Oregon or Washington State. I always forget. My memory's a bitch. And check out her content. She's been on my show many, many times. She's a great guest. It's been a while. I need to have you back. So we'll have to schedule something. Yeah, just pushed your grip to the knob too, Sway. It worked. Thank you guys, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and hit the exit thingy here. And check out, I think, if you want something to watch after this, go check out Original Owl. She's going to be streaming, covering a bit about Letitia. Yeah, Washington State going to start their podcast up again soon. There you go. But yeah, if you want something to watch, if you're really curious about what's happening with Letitia, go check out Original Owl's channel. She's streaming right after this too. So that'll be fun to see some of those updates. I've got a few of them, but I don't have all of them. So I'm curious to see them too. So take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. And it was good to get some of this frustration off my chest. So people, quit fucking with Letitia. Quit simping for Letitia. And Canada, get your fucking shit together. Because you guys are, I don't even know where to start with you assholes. So take care. Have a great rest of your Sunday. And make sure you check out some of the other cool creators. You got Tracy with Calming the Chaos. You got Aiden Paladin, her channel, as is her name. You got Migtown Podcast. Check them out. Tim from them is here in my chat usually. There's a bunch of other people. Check out 𝐕𝐞𝐽𝐽 Law. He's on a 2-week suspension because of the Keffels drama. So make sure you check him out when he comes back. He's on Rumble right now. So take care. Have a great day. And I will see you guys next time around. Peace.
Break it, fix it, crash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, slide it, get it.